Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Councilmember Nowicki, if you can leave the room. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silence for our veterans. And for the invocation tonight, Reverend Rick Mysop.
Before we go to the Lord in prayer, let's look around. Look at all our police officers, our men and women who risked their lives to keep us safe. And considering what happened last week, it hit hard at Maryvale because one of the children was a preschool. He was in preschool and he passed away. So I want to thank God for all our police officers, our fire department, all our first responders. We are blessed to have these people here, and we congratulate the promotion to be done today. Father, as we stand before you, Father God, we want to thank you, Lord God, for our police department, fire department, first responders, and Lord God, that they put their lives on the line, that, Father, we could be safe. And Father, they see things that we would never dream about seeing. But Lord God, they're there for us. And Father, we appreciate them. And Father, we pray, Lord, for our government. These are our elected officials. We elected them. And Father, they represent us. And today, Father, as we before you, in this meeting, we ask, Father, that everything will be done perfectly and in order, according to your will. That, Father God, that people would respect one another, whether it be different opinions. But, Lord, that your blessing would be here. Bless our country, bless our president, all those in Congress, and all our elected officials in state, local, and county. For we ask these things in the mighty name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. You may be seated.
Roll call vote today. Councilmember Barbara Bukowski. Here. Councilmember Monica Elderkin. Here. Councilmember Tiffany Lewis is absent. Councilmember Stephen Nowicki.
Present.
Councilmember Brian Pilarski is absent today. Councilmember Vernon Thompson.
Here.
And Supervisor Brian Nowak.
Present.
We have 5 present today.
Okay. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the June 9th meeting of the Cheektowaga Town Board. Before we take on any of our business for the evening, I would like to make a motion to suspend the rules for the consideration of Resolution 2026-411, the appointment of detective in the police department. So I'm offering a proper motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
A second from Mr. Thompson. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we have suspended the rules. So with that, I'll throw the floor over to the clerk.
We have Resolution 2026-411, sponsored by Supervisor Nowak, seconded by Councilmember Thompson. Police Officer Jacob Wadowski of Cheektowaga, New York, being and hereby is assigned to the rank of detective in the police department in accordance with the terms and conditions of the town's collective bargaining agreement with the Town of Cheektowaga Police Club, effective June 10th, 2026.
On the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, and I'd like to call the Chief of Police to the podium.
Good evening, Supervisor and Town Board. I'd like to introduce you Detective Jake Wadowski. For the past 13 years, Detective Jacob Wadowski has been a member of the Cheektowaga Police Department, currently serving on the afternoon shift. Before becoming an officer, he studied at Erie County Community College, earning an associate's degree in criminal justice. Detective Wadowski has served in numerous roles in the police department, including bike patrol and the field training office. He's helped develop the next generation of law enforcement professionals in our department. Detective Wadowski has been awarded the Distinguished Conduct Award, 3 Special Unit Awards, 6 Fitness Awards, 8 letters of commendation, and multiple letters of appreciation from the public for the fine work that he does. Detective Wadowski, his patrol experience is going to serve him well in his new position as a detective in the investigative unit. Thank you. Congratulations,
Thank you.
Detective.
Before we continue on with regular order, we'll give the room a moment to clear. Okay, that gets us to our next order of business this evening on regular order, which is presentations for new business. At the last meeting, the board had some discussion about one of our tabled resolutions pertaining to flock cameras. We are fortunate this evening to have representatives from Flock Group here with us. So with that, I'd like to call them to the podium and give them an opportunity to speak with the board about their business model, and then open it up to the town board for any questions that board members may have for them. So if you'd like to approach. That's it. If you can, you could just approach the podium, state your name for the record, that'll be sufficient.
And I believe Chief wanted to do an introduction. He may be outside, but
Understood, yes. So,
all right. Mayor and Council, my name is Trevor Chandler. I'm the Senior Director for Public Affairs at Flock.
My name is Carl Bach. I'm a Government Affairs Manager with Flock Safety. Thank you for the opportunity to engage in this discussion. I just wanted to start, my background's in local government. I'm not an attorney or a cybersecurity professional, but our hope is that we can answer as many questions as possible to the best of our knowledge.
okay.
Thank you.
With that, we'll open this up to the town board members, and we'll give the chief of police an opportunity to return and to finish this all up. So did you want to take a moment to go through this slideshow before town board member comments, or would you prefer that we go right into the questions we may have?
I think we might answer a lot of the questions in our presentation. And so if it please the mayor and the council, we can.
We do have our chief with us, Chief Coons. He and I discussed our orders of business earlier, and I gave you bad instructions, Chief. But you're here now. Thanks for getting back so quickly. Floor is yours, sir.
So I'm here in reference to Resolution 2026-342, which amends the agreement, our current agreement with Flock Group Incorporated, to add 2 new cameras to our current system. This is simply adding newer, faster technology, which is fully funded by our gun-involved violence elimination grant, our GIVE grant. I've heard the concerns of both the town board members and some community members. I addressed those concerns by speaking at the last meeting, speaking with town board members, sending an email presenting facts about Flock and our successes, arranging individual meetings between council members and Flock, and finally, by Flock graciously agreeing to come tonight to address the board. So I'll let them take over. I want to introduce Trevor Chandler and Carl Bach from Flock. They're going to do a short presentation on what Flock is and what Flock is not.
Yep. And that's Trevor and Chandler, right?
Trevor Chandler and Carl Bach.
Trevor and Carl,
Perils
there
of
we
having
are.
two first names.
All right.
So if it's all right with you, we have a presentation. If not, we can answer questions as well.
Absolutely. Please proceed.
All right. Well, thank you again. This will be about 10 minutes. We understand your time is valuable, but we also want to be as thorough as possible in answering any and all possible questions you might have. So about Flock, it's important to note that this is collaborative policing technology. We regularly hear from the law enforcement agencies that we work with that these license plate reader cameras and their ability to engage with surrounding communities has been one of the biggest game changers in law enforcement technology since fingerprints, DNA. I was recently with the chief of the Providence, Rhode Island Police Department, and he has said, specifically when it comes to the MIT Brown murders that were solved using Flock, you give me a vehicle and I'm 70% there to getting you the suspect. And that's how impactful this technology has been. And it's also important to note that this is about precision policing. I know there's a lot of valid concerns as it relates to mass surveillance and whether or not everybody is being watched, everyone is being tracked. That is actually the exact opposite of what Flock does. It is a precision policing tool so that when you have an incident, when you have a kidnapping, a murder, a stolen car, and you have a description of a vehicle that you're looking for, you're no longer looking for a red Ford pickup truck. You're now looking for the red Ford pickup truck. You're making less people suspects instead of having to treat everyone in that vehicle as a suspect. And so it's important to note this is about precision policing, not mass policing.
Great. I think the central value that's grounding literally everyone who's part of this discussion is we all believe that thriving communities are safe communities, and everyone has a right to be safe. So as we continue this discussion, we fully acknowledge that every concerned citizen, every email is grounded by that very positive value that they care about their community. They want everyone to be safe in order to thrive. So we do have a number of commonly asked questions or frequently asked topics. So I just wanted to run through a couple. Probably the most important, most common is the data is 100% owned by you and will never be sold by Flock. Private customers are able to share their camera access to local law enforcement. They do not receive any privileged criminal justice information in return. They're just allowing the local law enforcement to run searches off the cameras that they privately purchased. Oops. Another big question is how long is this information retained? So by default, the data is automatically and permanently deleted after 30 days. Flock LPRs, as you know, are license plate readers. They only take images of the backs of vehicles in public right-of-ways. So they're looking for a piece of plastic, a piece of metal, the back of your car, government-issued license plate, the taillights to identify vehicle of interest, make, model, and color. Your agency decides solely who to share with and not Flock. You set those settings on your own. Flock will never share your information or on your behalf. And finally, there's no facial recognition. We're looking at the back of vehicles. The cameras aren't meant to do anything with facial recognition.
Excuse me a moment. Madam Clerk, could you put the presentation up on the YouTube? Thank you. Go ahead.
Data security is vital to this tool. We use some of the highest levels of certification to ensure that criminal justice information is held by the FBI's high standards. So we're CJIS compliant. The technology is compliant with the National Defense Authorization Act. There's a host of certifications which we apply for and vet annually. If there were an incident, we would have to report these to all those agencies in a very serious way. I will say that our cloud storage is again of a high level. We use Amazon Web Service GovCloud. This is common for criminal justice information and is often the means that local municipalities store and protect their data.
And a common concern whenever it comes to policing, or especially policing technology, is the impact it has on vulnerable communities. These are correct conversations to be having. And that is why we're incredibly proud to be endorsed by several NAACP chapters. One of the most impactful has been the NAACP of Oakland, California, one of the historic branches. And they specifically endorsed Flock license plate readers because of the impact it actually has on the potential to reduce bias in policing. So these are not Flock's words. These are the NAACP of Oakland's words, where it says Flock Safety's LPR technology offers a powerful tool to reduce bias in policing. These cameras are designed to detect only vehicles associated with a crime, removing the subjective judgment that too often leads to disproportionate stops and harmful interactions with Black and brown residents. It is a clear example of how technology can support safer, fairer policing. We all know that we have a long way to go, but the fact that we have a tool that vulnerable communities are actually asking for, because it allows them to feel safe without the risk of over-policing, allows them to find the bad actors in their communities without putting their community potentially at risk of bias, is something we're incredibly proud of. And also about finding common ground. As you have heard, this is an incredibly tense subject. The balance of public safety and privacy is a conversation that has been going on 250 years before Flock. It'll be going on 250 years after Flock. But it's important to note, Flock is not an ideological organization. We encourage every city, every state to come up with reasonable safeguards, reasonable guidelines that informs their community values. We firmly believe that community safety does not have to come at the expense of community values. In fact, both us and the ACLU, the National ACLU, both supported a bill in Virginia that put a 21-day limit on data retention, as well as restrictions on out-of-state sharing. We worked directly alongside the ACLU of New Mexico and immigrant rights groups to make sure that that state had a comprehensive law that preserved the utility of the tool for law enforcement while not putting their immigrant communities at risk. This is something we're incredibly proud of, and it goes against the grain of what many people perceive as being this divide on the tension of public safety and privacy. And that goes into how we built this tool. We built this tool so, again, community safety never has to come at the expense of community values. It's important to note, and I may say this a few times, Flock is the most transparent law enforcement tool in the country. You will not find another law enforcement tool that is as transparent, and that is by design, not by accident. We have permanent audit logs that show what officer searched what when, so that at any time, daily, hourly, weekly, monthly, you can see how your department is using this tool and how the agencies your department chooses to share with uses this tool. We also have provided audit assistance. So rather than having to wait a quarter or a year for your annual audit, we now have an audit tool that will flag for your administrator irregular search patterns. Say that if one person is searching the same plate 15 times, that'll trigger an alert for your administrator to check into that. Could mean nothing is wrong. They could be looking for a missing person regularly, or it could be something else. It'll provide your agency the visibility and accountability into how the tool is being used so that you can have confidence that it's being used according to your community values. Federal limitations. We do not allow federal agencies access to our national lookup tool or the state lookup tool. The only way a federal agency could potentially access a local law enforcement agency's data is if that agency proactively agrees to sharing with that. Of course, there's federal parks that utilize Flock. You have Niagara Falls does not, but for this hypothetical example, if Niagara Falls were to get Flock cameras, it would be your community's decision as to whether or not you would opt in proactively to share with them. Flock will never make the decision to share your data. Flock will never sell your data. It is yours to decide what to do with. And legal response. If we were to get a subpoena for your data because the city, the town owns the data, we are contractually obligated to notify the agency so that you all can respond to it. Because again, contractually, it is firmly your data. You get to decide how you respond to legal inquiries.
So just to talk about the audit log, it's a permanent immutable record of what the tool has been used for. So every search requires a registered ID of the person using the system. That's two-factor authentication to log in. An offense type must be listed through a drop-down menu. Again, this is a permanent audit trail. It cannot be edited, cannot be removed, can't be deleted. Like Trevor mentioned, we've enhanced our audit tools to flag irregular search patterns. Could be a training issue, could be someone who's not familiar with the tool who needs help, could be something else, but it's important that everyone who's aware of this tool knows that every search is logged and that audit trail is permanent. We also can enable a transparency portal to make clear to the public what the system is and what it isn't, what it detects, what it does not, the sharing capability, the number of cameras, and any other information that you want to make the public aware of. Oftentimes, this is a great place for people to see the solved stories of where this technology was used to solve an Amber Alert to identify a missing senior. But it lists the information we listed now, like the cameras pick up license plates, make, model, and color of a vehicle, where the camera, how many cameras are located in the city, and the restrictions that are embedded in the tool. One thing that I find significant about this tool is I'm not good at remembering a license plate, especially in a moment of crisis. I think many of us wish that we could be better at recalling the actual digits on a license plate. This tool allows for is the plain term search of a vehicle. So make, model, and color are something I'm probably more likely to remember if I'm hit by a driver while I'm walking on the road. So officers with Flock can run a search of make, model, and color to determine what type of vehicle it was in the area that matches that description, dramatically narrowing down the needle in the haystack. They can now determine a white Ford Focus was at this intersection, traveling in a certain direction when an incident took place, and they can determine how to respond to that much more quickly in cases where like minutes and hours make a difference between reuniting loved ones and not. So it's a powerful tool. Great. Just to fix myths and facts. So one myth is that license plate readers can track people and show police everywhere they go. This is not true. This is a point-in-time image of a license plate passing a fixed point in time with a direction of travel. The courts have consistently found this is consistent with Fourth Amendment, and you're viewing a publicly issued driver's license in a public road operating in plain view, and consistently courts have upheld this as it's consistent with the Fourth Amendment.
And again, just because this is something worth reiterating time and time again, Flock does not sell customer data. It is not our business model. We are not a social media company. We do not aggregate it for advertisers. Flock does not sell data, period. We are not owned by Palantir. We are not associated with Palantir. This is something that we really want to hammer home. And again, as was stated before, Flock's private customers cannot access law enforcement data. In terms and conditions, we know there's been some online discourse about our terms and conditions, so we want to touch on this quickly. In brief, and I'm happy to discuss these more, you'll see usually with your social media companies, with anything you sign up, you get a new terms and conditions that's 20 pages long, and every year they just add more to provide more exemptions, more exemptions, more exemptions. What we did was actually just the opposite. We consolidated and simplified our terms and conditions because we heard from our partner agencies, we heard from our elected official partners that the language was either obscure, obtuse, didn't match common best practices. Nothing in the change of our terms and conditions, the next slide please, changes anything about your ownership of the data. It is still expressly clear in our terms and conditions that your town owns your data. This was actually a simplification versus what you usually see as an overcomplication to provide additional, wiggle room. So I'm happy to answer any additional questions as it relates to the terms and conditions, but wanted to call that out specifically. And real important, because, sometimes we hear, this is just about finding stolen cars. This is just, okay, great. We found 14 stolen cars. No big deal. It's not worth it. First, it's important to note that every car is a person's livelihood. So it's not just a car. The most stolen cars are not Teslas, they're not Bentleys, they're Civics, they're Kias. These are working people's cars who rely on their vehicles for work. So that in itself is very important. But beyond that, we're incredibly proud of the everyday powerful stories, whether it's about human trafficking, murders, grand theft auto, any number of these significant issues that leave behind just incredibly broken families with loss, and Flock has been instrumental in helping. It's important to note, Flock helps. Flock does not solve by itself. Your law enforcement professionals are the heroes that solve crimes. What Flock does is help them do it quicker, more efficiently, and to bring faster justice to criminals. And that's one of the reasons we're incredibly proud to be endorsed and supported by NCMEC, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. They're actually the ones that run the nation's Amber Alert program. And they have said themselves they have used Flock to reunite at least 100 missing children with their family. And that quote was from about 2 years ago. And chances are they found hundreds more using Flock. And we're also supported and fully endorsed by Mothers Against Drunk Driving. As Carl was saying, when you get hit by a car in a hit and run, hit and runs are actually one of MADD's top priorities, because most people who do a hit and run are impaired drivers. And if you get hit by a car at 11 o'clock at night, chances are you weren't looking at the license plate, but you know you got hit by a red Ford pickup truck. And using Flock, you can increase the clearance rate for solving hit and runs significantly. Currently, less than 50% of hit and runs are solved nationwide. And cities that have used Flock, most recently in my conversations in Prescott Valley, saw their clearance rate for hit and runs double after putting Flock in.
I think the chief wanted to close us out here, so.
So using Flock, and I mentioned this at the last meeting, it's a force multiplier for us. Right? It provides us with real-time locations, stolen cars, assists us with missing person cases, and it serves as an invaluable investigative tool. It's a tool that helps us solve these things. Flock is the first piece of the puzzle to successfully solve a case. Flock gives us the window to look at, narrows down the time, shortens the investigations, prevents officers from spending multiple overtime hours going door to door looking for video, especially when most video is gone within 7 days. From 2023 to 2026, using Flock, we have 571 successful interventions with stolen cars, resulting in 376 offenders being arrested. We went from a 25.1% to a 58.7% capture efficiency in that time period. Prior to tonight, I provide you with a sampling of our successes. Flock was used to narrow the time frame and disprove a suspect's statement, which led to a manslaughter charge. Flock was used to identify a vehicle with a switch plate that was used in a pawn shop robbery and shooting. Flock was the only reason this criminal was identified and taken into custody so quickly. Flock was used to identify a suspect in a violent home invasion burglary. We only had the vehicle description and a partial plate from the victim. This too may have gone unsolved without this technology. Flock shortened our investigation time on a murder on Walden Ave, where the victim was struck intentionally by the suspect. Flock provided critical evidence to the vehicle that was used. Just last week, using Flock, we were able to locate a vehicle in our town that was used in a kidnapping of a young woman from Buffalo. The list goes on. Flock saves us time, period. We identify and solve crimes faster, saving overtime costs, not to mention the cost of stolen property that is found and returned. I encourage you to pass this resolution so we can continue the fight and bring justice to crime victims in our town. Thank you. Any questions?
Up to town board members, any questions for the chief or for Flock's representatives? I know some of you had an opportunity to get some of your questions answered, and we'll start with Councilman Thompson. Unless, I'm sorry, you were leaning in. So just,
the Flock cameras that we have in our community, do they capture automatically as a vehicle drives by it?
Yes.
So if it's in near a residential neighborhood, and there's a neighbor across the street, is it capturing his license plate every time he goes by?
It depends on how he passes the camera. But just remember that all our camera placement is based on crime data. It's not that I'm trying to look at some individual. That's not what it's for. It's to capture plates used for investigations. So using the data that we got from the Crime Analysis Center is how we picked our locations.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right, I'll go. So I have concerns from a number of different areas. I'll start with the more concrete stuff before I go into grander ideas. So on the Flock transparency portal for the Cheektowaga Police Department, one of the prohibited uses we have is traffic enforcement. if I go on a website that does some tracking of our logs for people searching through our police department, I have somebody from Georgia searching up a traffic infraction, somebody from Ohio searching up a traffic infraction, another person from Ohio, more Ohio, and so on. If we have rules in place that things are not being used in a certain manner in town, I'm glad to not see these are being searched by Cheektowaga, but that other places in the country aren't following the rules we have set in place. Those rules only apply to the officers within our town. Anyone else who has access to our systems is not bound by those rules if they don't feel like following them. And while this is a case of something benign as traffic infraction, this just as well could be them searching up anything under the sun that they feel like doing. So how do we put a barrier in place that people who have access to our system aren't breaking the rules we have put in place to not break our policy?
Traffic infraction is just a general term that is used. It could be DWI, it could be hit and run, it could be a lot of things. That's just one of the drop downs, and that's what they select. It shouldn't be used for just a regular, someone ran a stop sign. That's not what it's there for. But also, if that car is found, we actually have additional steps that we run it through to confirm the plate and make sure that it is the right car that we are stopping.
I just have tremendous concerns with the fact that we give our information so freely with, as much as this is auditable, I don't know what the heck I'm looking at here. For as transparent as this is, it's not. We can say it's transparent all day long, but quite frankly, it's not. I understand we have to put in barriers to protect our officers, that they're not getting doxxed and searched out because of their information's on here. Obviously, we don't want to do that, putting them in danger just for the sake of doing their job. But at the same time, I don't have the ability to know what they are searching to begin with. It's audible, it's viewable, but when so much of it is redacted that it's not English anymore. It's just a log of a search happened for somebody states away that drove through our town. And just from a larger perspective, I don't think us, the Cheektowaga Town Board, or our larger government at all, reserves the right to sell to a private company the data of everyone who comes through our town without any oversight. I don't think it's fair to the people in town. I think we have...
There's no data being sold.
They're selling it to you. We're buying it from them.
Yeah, us, yes.
Yeah.
But that's just, we're just capturing plates. There's no different from me going out, sitting on Union Road with my camera, taking pictures of every car that passes by. I could do that.
I don't believe me as the government should be able to do that to our citizens, to our residents.
It's free. You could sit out on the sidewalk and do whatever you want, take pictures. Just like when the First Amendment auditors come and talk to our officers. It's the same thing. It's a public area. It's a public, the plates are all public. In a public area, we could take photos.
Sure. I just don't want it to be government backed and paid for by the taxpayer.
Sorry you feel that way. I mean, we've proven that the cases that it solves, it's a proven tool that we use. You take away that tool, you take away our ability to keep the citizens safe.
I do understand.
Hold on. Excuse me, guys. Can I ask the audience to remain silent during this discussion? Thank you.
I do completely understand. We've done many good things with this technology, and it's done incredible good for the people that have been in these situations that have got their cases solved or moved forward because of that. I really don't want to discredit that. It's the other costs associated with it, of all of the ways it can be used improperly, that I don't know if the juice is worth the squeeze on it. That's where I'm sitting. I'm not wiping away the good with this. I'm saying I can't appreciate all of the bad that comes with it as well.
This is paid for by a GIVE grant. So when we apply for this grant, we have to submit what we're going to be using the grant for. That is vetted by New York State. So it is approved, an approved tool by New York State. So, I mean, it's approved, so.
Yeah, before we move on, Councilmember Thompson wanted to...
Yeah, no, more people deserve to speak.
We can go back and forth, obviously. Floor is yours, sir.
So I know we talk about the unknown costs and what that can cost the taxpayers, but often many times we're concerned with lawsuits and, oh, we can be sued for this, we can sue for that. Can you imagine the lawsuit of what it would be if we were to pull over a vehicle that we thought was a suspect and searched them and interrogated them, and turns out it's the wrong vehicle? Imagine if that happened. What the lawsuit would be like. When we talk about unknown costs, I mean, can you picture what that lawsuit would look like? I'm sure it'd be pretty astronomical. And again, going to the data breach, I mean, every person in here has a cell phone on them. Is every single thing that we do and watch and say is not being tracked, and then we have something that's being used for good? I mean, it seems like a no-brainer, but maybe I'm speaking a different language. But every single thing you do is tracked. Everything. When I walk out of this building, I'm sure I'm getting an advertisement for, cameras or home cameras. It happens everywhere. So using this for good, I mean, I don't see where the harm is in that. I know we talk about data breaches. There was just a large one with Carnival the other week. Should everybody boycott Carnival and say it's unsafe and they're selling everybody's data off? I mean, that, is leisure. Here you have something that's proven many times to be a benefit to the public. So, I mean, we can obviously go back and forth all day. I think this is a really good thing, and to have it paid by a grant, it's proven time and time again that it is valuable, not to replace our police officers. It's to assist them. We have a hard enough time as it is to find and retain and keep our officers. Let's be honest, a lot of people don't want to do this job because they get dragged through the mud for many different reasons. But here we are giving them a tool that, just like the fingerprinting, we said that years ago, that's a tool that, improved cases and investigations. And now here we are giving another tool, just like you have AI. It's improving everybody's life. Yeah, there's, discrepancies on, going up with the data centers and the energy they're using, but it's, for all intents and purposes, a tool, a resource that's being used to improve something that exists already. So that's how I see it. I could have different opinions from the council, but it seems pretty straightforward to me.
Councilmember Nowicki, would you like the floor back? Other council members, questions, comments, concerns while we have the reps here and the chief of police? I've got a few questions. My questions are more so for the flock representatives, and I've got three of them drafted down here. I think you notice this with tech companies and a lot of other companies now that there seems to be, with a lot of these new companies coming about, or 21st century capitalism, that a lot of the liability is farmed out to other people to say that, yeah, we offer this service, but the customer's liable, or the end user is liable, or it's not us. Is when it comes to dealing with your employees directly for Flock, and not 1099s or subcontractors or anything like that, what do you guys do in terms of just a general overview of policy and procedure to hold employees accountable that don't follow policy, or make sure that they're behaving within the company's ethos? Because if you have a third-party user not using the product as intended, there really is nothing you can do about that. You put out a tool and they use it a way as you didn't want it to be done or as intended. It's you don't know until you know. But with the people that are actually in Flock's employ, like what are the general guidelines to make sure that they're actually doing what the company purports about, being transparent, about making sure that communities are living up to their values and all that? Just some examples.
Yeah, so just to clarify, you're speaking specifically to Flock employees that may have access to data and making sure that they're using it correctly, Is that, I just want to make sure I'm answering the question.
It is a global question, but
Okay.
if that's the example you have to answer the question, I'd be happy to hear anything that comes to mind for that.
Yeah, certainly. So it's important to note in the contract that Flock employees do not have a general right of access to any of our customers' data. There is a very select few that are CJIS certified. So again, they have to go through the same certification to handle public safety information. And they are given very limited discretion for how that could be used, including if there's data corruption going, if there's a product quality issue, so that they have the authority to go in there and fix a potential issue to that extent. And to make sure that there is no misuse in that regard, that's one of the important parts of the SOC 2 Type 2 audit certification. So the SOC 2 Type 2 is a specific, it's an independent audit that makes sure, that certifies that Flock's end systems have not been corrupted, have not been hacked, and are being used in a compliant manner. That's available on our Trust Hub. And that's just one of the audits that we do to demonstrate to our customers that this is being fully handled correctly, legally, and according to our contracts.
I appreciate that. And as you well know, you're gaining customers quickly since you've been founded, but there are some municipalities that are leaving you as well.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk a little bit about some of the reasons cited for the municipalities ending those contracts?
Yeah, so it won't come as a surprise to anyone that we live in a very hyper-political environment right now, and there's a lot of tension between the federal administration, state governments, and local governments. And there are some communities that not because Flock isn't working, it is working, and every single one of these communities has a strong list of success stories. There's a hypersensitivity to the potential of a federal takeover, where this has never happened before. Even in the areas where there has been a federal surge, we have never seen Flock cameras utilized in that manner. And so, but there is a hypersensitivity to those concerns in some communities, even though we've never seen any examples of that. And so not just with Flock public safety technology, we've seen other public safety technology companies also lose customers because of this hypersensitivity, whether it's in places like Austin, Texas, didn't want cameras in their public parks. That was not a Flock camera. That was a completely different vendor. They just pretty much got rid of all their cameras out of a very hypersensitivity. In some cases, there is misinformation as to what the companies, what we actually do, and we work. That's why we show up to hundreds of city council meetings every year to address that. But overall, there is a strong tension regarding the political dynamic in the country right now.
Yeah, and as I'm sure you're aware, you have competition in the marketplace, and sometimes they like drop in these news stories so they can cut into your market and all that. You don't have to comment on that.
Well,
But-
I will say it's important to note, because
Yeah.
obviously the elephant in the room is the conversation around ICE.
Mhm.
There are 3 top LPR providers. We are the only one that does not have a contract with ICE.
Because I bring that up because, you know, it gets sent stuff by supporters and opponents of whether it's the surveillance state, Flock particularly, whatever it may be. But in this particular situation, someone sent me an article with a situation that happened in Dunwoody, Georgia. And again, if you're not familiar with it, I don't need you
I
to
am.
comment on it, but it's like the title of the article is Access Cameras in Children's Gymnastic Room as Sales Pitch Demo, Renews Contract Anyways. And at the heart of it essentially was a particular municipality's camera system being used to demo the product for a potential customer, right? And folks being upset when they learned about that. So can you comment a little bit about the town of Cheektowaga, specifically what data we are gathering and retaining, and how or if that might be used in sales pitches to other municipalities?
Yes, absolutely. First, I'm going to address Dunwoody head on because I'm very familiar with it. That was a city that explicitly agreed. Again, Flock will never share data without a city's specific approval. Dunwoody has been a long-time early adopter of Flock. We have a great relationship with them, and they explicitly authorized us to be able to utilize their system in order to demonstrate its capabilities to other cities. Unfortunately, YouTube experts, I use that term lightly, YouTube individuals and TikTokers then decided to make it into a really disgusting accusation, but unfortunately, that's what happens on social media. So that is all to say, Dunwoody made an explicit agreement to be one of those partners with us. Chief Tawaga has not. So there is no one who, unless you say, yes, I opt into this, or yes, I want to share with this entity, you are in control. You own the data. You decide who you share with, just like Dunwoody chose who they shared with.
And I appreciate that. It brings up one last question that there's a lot of success stories with Flock about catching home invaders in this town, about catching folks. The pawn shop situation was mentioned. There was a situation with a convenience store in the French Road area where there were three robberies, and we used Flock technology and partnering with neighboring agency to essentially catch that person. There are certain cases in this town that without the Flock cameras, we would not have been able to catch people. And in talking with folks that know this technology well, or arguing on the upside of it, you get to hear a lot of those stories, and I experienced them firsthand. But you also hear some stories where the technology is abused by your customers. So the last question I have is, if one of those instances happen with one of your customers, and you see some isolated incidents or the news or some more significant ones, do you play a role as the provider to assist the customer, if there's an issue like that, to help them go back through audit logs and do what needs to be done to put together a case if let's say a county authority, for instance, has these cameras? We'll use the Erie County Sheriff's Department for the sake of argument to say that, hey, Flock, thanks for the relationship with us. We're asking you to help us find this information from 24 months ago. Is it possible to go back that far? Can they go back 36 months? Do you have a documented storied history of helping the customer when the internal work needs to be done to address issues, to do those kind of things?
I mean, absolutely. I will say we don't actively help on the back end. What we do to help is maintain permanent audit records and make them easily accessible, except in those states where there are some states where even audit logs are required to be deleted after a certain period of time. So we abide by the law in that state. It's default for permanent audit logs everywhere else. And it's important to note, any misuse of the Flock system is unacceptable. Period. And it goes back to the fact that first, if you add up, and this is very ad hoc, if you add up the number of cases that have been heard about in the media, or if you Google maybe 14, let's be generous and say 24. Flock has 100,000+ users every single month in law enforcement. The instances that were identified represent less than 0.01% of Flock's users. And again, the fact that they were identified and found is because Flock is the most transparent law enforcement tool in the country. I get that there is a tension that comes from that transparency. And as a company, we decided we would rather provide all the transparency and accountability tools so any potential bad actors can be found. And as you see, sometimes that accountability blows back onto Flock. But we would rather take that heat and have that transparency so those minuscule number of bad apples can be identified and held accountable than to not. And so we are continually, this is where audit assistance came in. We are continually innovating on our audit and our transparency and accountability tools. We are not resting on our laurels. We are continuing to find new ways to help agencies identify potential misuse. And we're just at the beginning of being on the cutting edge of that.
So would that mean that it's on the agency to retain its data, and if we don't have it, we're SOL? Or
no, Flock retains all the audit logs. So we retain it on our servers. You are not required to maintain audit logs. They are permanently held according to your city, so that 10 years from now, if hopefully you're still using Flock 10 years from now, you're going to be able to look at the audit logs from 2026 if you want to do a deep dive to identify maybe a particular officer's pattern of usage over even a decade. So we maintain all of those audit logs, including clicks within the system. One of the things we heard during the 2025 is, some system settings were switched, and folks were like, some administrators said, I don't remember switching this, and we were unable to say when or how or who switched on a sharing setting or switched it off. Now every single click in the system is audible. So if someone decides to make a sharing decision that goes against your community's values and regulations, you now know who that person is. So it's not just the searches, it's every click in the system can be identified to a user.
Okay. Any other questions, council members? Councilmember Elderkin.
Thank you for taking the time. I spoke with Flock and with Captain on Friday. One of my concerns that was addressed was MFA. So MFA is a default. I just didn't have time to look into the website. I was sent a website before the meeting, and it just says like searches, unique operators. One thing that came up was a percentage of sharing risk. Is there any, and I'll tell you the website if it's haveibeenflock.com, and you can search by statistics and insights. So there is a tab here that says sharing risk. So I guess my question is there a way to turn off an MFA, or do you have to use it every time? I guess it's searching if it's being used on different devices, the same login information.
Yeah, so MFA is on by default, and most agencies use it by default. And so I don't believe your chief can speak to your agency's policy, but I don't think it's even possible for the agency currently at the way they log in. And I would just say, Have I Been Flocked? That is an ideological website. They say so in their description. They're very open about it. They're one of the reasons that we had to really move to protect officers who were being doxxed. This organization was taking publicly accessible audit logs and cross-referencing it with actual live case numbers, putting active cases at risk and putting individual officers investigating these cases at risk. And so I don't know how they calculate their risk score. I do know that it is not as simple as a good government group. It is an ideological one that does have an opposite.
Like I said, I didn't have time to look at the website. It was just wanted to ask that. And one other thing that was shared on Friday was the only federal agency that we share is the U.S. Post Office due to check washing. I just had a procedure question in case something came up in Georgia, missing child, and the FBI wanted access. Is there like a warrant? What's the process between another federal agency that does not normally have access to our Flock cameras?
Well, we get requests, and then we have to approve it.
Okay, so you approve it individually, but it could just be a drop down. There's,
Yeah, we don't, if they're following up on a case, we only share with the Postal Service inspectors because we're dealing with the mailboxes.
Armed robbery.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Questions, comments, concerns from council members?
I have one last one that we can just end on here, or for me at least. I think this is a Flock rep question. So courts have decided that when police, law enforcement, what have you, is looking into someone's phone records on where they have been over a period of time, I think it's about a week that our law enforcement is entitled to see where a person is before they're required to get a warrant to track someone. But Flock as a system can give the option of if somebody goes by their cameras more than 7 days in a row or over the course of multiple months, as long as it's still logged within the system, depending on your retention rates, we would able to be well beyond what's a conventional window for surveilling people for their cell phones. But this gives us the avenue to do that through their vehicle. Why? I guess you might not have an answer to this, but why does your company believe that that is a fair use of the product compared to a similar object that's always on a person, usually the same individual every time, but is held to a different standard?
Yeah, and the fact is it's not about Flock's beliefs, it's about the court's beliefs. The courts are the ones that have ruled unanimously in multiple cases, including most recently in Norfolk. There's a Supreme Court case that has some tangential application to this, which is Carpenter, and they made actually a distinction of observing the outside of a vehicle versus actually putting a tracking device on a vehicle. And so what these courts have unanimously found is that taking a point-in-time shot of a vehicle, and again, just because it's a vehicle maybe owned by something doesn't mean the owner of that vehicle is driving it, and that's something that your law enforcement is responsible for ascertaining. But this is a point-in-time image of a vehicle that with data that is deleted after 30 days, that is many courts unanimously have found does not establish a pattern of life that risks going to the Fourth Amendment. And so again, that's not Flock's opinion. I mean, we thoroughly believe in adhering to constitutional state and local law. And if that was ever to change, we would absolutely operate within the bounds of that. But it is unanimous amongst courts that it is fully legal under the Fourth Amendment.
It does seem weird though, right? That a phone can not be tracked in that manner, but a vehicle has the right to be done. Does that seem weird to you?
I would refer you to the unanimous U.S. court system that has found that that is not the case.
That Carpenter case, there is a part of that. I remember, I didn't read it too closely, but I was reading as much as I could on that. There was a third party doctrine aspect to that case that the court did not comment on. You know, and when I think third party, I think of Flock. I mean, do you think if that court, and I'm sorry, I'm getting into the weeds here, but do you think if that court heard this case that they'd give your product the green light? And can you explain why you believe that?
We fully expect it to happen at some point. And given the unanimous opinion of all the lower courts, we feel very confident about that. Again, if it were ever to change, we would absolutely operate under the rule of law and the Constitution of this country, of the country. I mean, I think that should go without saying. But having a unanimous record going into one of those arguments, I think we feel fairly positive that the current model stands, and happy to get into constitutional case law, mosaic law about overlapping forms of evidence gathering and how that was considered in the Norfolk case. But again, this is not Flock's opinion. This is the unanimous opinion of every single federal court that has considered it.
I appreciate that, but again, your product would, if your product were involved in that case, is it your belief, your opinion that third-party doctrine where there was not commentary on that, there wouldn't have been commentary on Flock because of that? Or do you think it would have been included within, I know this is about cell phones with Carpenter and his situation in Detroit there. But do you think that this court would have spoke to your product based on what happened there?
I know what I don't know. And that I don't know. So what I can't speak to a hypothetical opinion from the Supreme Court, but what I can speak to is the tangible, unanimous record at the courts as it relates to this.
All right, fair enough. Open it up to the rest of the board to wind this up. Any other questions, comments, concerns? All right, seeing none, hearing none, I believe we're all set.
Thank you, counsel.
Okay.
And thank you very much.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay. That moves us on to our next order of business, which is our public comment period. It's an opportunity for residents to comment on matters involving the town of Cheektowaga. Each speaker may speak only once, and each speaker shall be limited to a maximum of 3 minutes speaking time. Okay, 4 to 5. We have 10 speakers up for public comment this evening. The first is Sandy Prisblack.
Good evening. So many microphones. I have done a great deal of research on ALPR cameras since the last board meeting, and it has confirmed and increased my concerns about them. One of the websites used was dflock.org, which reports 102,520 active Flock cameras in the United States. 68 local governments nationwide have canceled their contracts with Flock, 4 of which are in New York: Ithaca, Saranac Lake, Scarsdale, and Tompkins County. There are 29 in use in Cheektowaga, as currently reported on the Flock Safety Transparency Portal. Interestingly, Saranac Lake Village is on the list of towns currently granted access to our Flock data. Saranac Lake was one of the municipalities that stopped Flock, so interesting. The Electronic Frontier Foundation, a nonprofit dedicated to defending civil liberties in the digital world, has links to several informative articles on the subject of ALPRs. I did send the town clerk this presentation that does have the links, so you all can check them out for yourselves. One that documents violations of citizens' First and Fourth Amendment rights is how cops are using Flock Safety's ALPR network to surveil protesters and activists. Here's an excerpt. Via public records request, EFF obtained data sets representing more than 12 million searches logged by more than 3,900 agencies between December 2024 and October 2025. The data shows that agencies logged hundreds of searches related to the 50-51 protests in February, the hands-off protests in April, the No Kings protests in June and October, and other protests in between. The proliferation of data centers across the country is in preparation for the total mass surveillance and control of the people in all aspects of our lives. Where you go, what we watch on TV, access on the internet, where we seek medical care, and where and how we spend our money. It will not be long before cash becomes obsolete, and the government will have complete control of our lives. A totalitarian authoritative government, such as what we are rapidly heading toward today, is on the horizon unless we stand together and just say no. Respectfully submitted, me.
All right. Thank you. Our next speaker this evening is Tony Flipsky.
All right. I get concerns about privacy and the government. I worked for the government for 36 years. I don't trust the government. I was in government for a year. I get it. But I was also a cop for 30 years. So I know the importance of this tool. It should be regulated. I agree. We shouldn't be giving out information. I agree. Giving it to the FBI. I'm not going to say it on camera. I don't agree with it. But anyways, what I do agree with is the use of it. Everywhere you go, you're on camera. I had a repo man drive down my street the other day, had 4 license plate readers on his car. Where does that information go? You get on a Metro bus, you're being on camera. You're in a taxi, Uber, Lyft, you're on camera. You walked in this building, you're on camera. I wouldn't have a friggin' cell phone if people didn't make me, my family, make me get one, because I don't trust it and I don't really want it. And I don't want people to know where I am. Anyways, there are countless incidents in town, and I'll recite one that I know of because it happened to a friend of mine, and as a gentleman that used to work for the town. He was stabbed over 24 times in his driveway. He should be dead. The Flock camera system assisted in getting the person in custody in Amherst within 20 minutes. Now, I don't know if crime's going up or down, but I can say crime's getting more violent, especially in this town. We would work 5-6 years without a homicide. Now you're averaging about 3 or 4 a year. People that kill people with such disregard are a danger to public safety because they're desperate and they're scared. And when they start getting trapped or they're out freely with guns and knives, other people, innocent people, get killed or hurt. And that's unacceptable. I think 2, 3, 4 years from now, if you're all still sitting here, I ain't gonna be here, but you're gonna be talking about AI. And you're probably gonna have the same concerns, if not more than that. It's a technology, I can't even say it because I don't care about it, but technology. I mean, when I first started, we used teletypes. Like you sent it, like smoke signals. That's how old I am. And then we used telephones. We used to have telephones on fire halls. You go and call dispatch. Yeah, what do you want? But I just want to say I'm in favor of it. I don't like the government in my business either, but I think it's just where we're at. The other thing, the unintended consequences, missing persons, vulnerable, endangered, Amber Alerts, Silver Alerts. Everybody, if you haven't had a loved one, a grandfather, grandmother, mother, whoever, that started going through dementia, Alzheimer's. Consider yourself lucky, because they're going to get in a car because they think they still have all their faculties, and they're going to drive away. Whether you take the keys or not, they find a way. The license plate reader helps you get that. One of the worst jobs a policeman does is to notify a family if they found a loved one dead. That is gut-wrenching, and it stays with you your whole life. You can see the looks on the people's faces, and you remember everybody's reaction. And you can't tell them we did everything we possibly could, because you didn't. Lastly, if you're going to do this, and okay, fine, you get rid of Flock, get rid of all the night tech cameras that are in town. They're monitoring traffic every day. Get rid of the body cameras. They're recording everything. Car cameras are recording everything. Get rid of everything. Go back to the Stone Age and let the cops flip a coin and hope for the best. That's just my opinion. And for your question, I'm not a lawyer.
Tony, I'm sorry to cut you short. I gave you an extra minute.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I
think it's a court case.
What's that?
Can I?
I'll give a motion, let him finish.
Yeah, an extra 30 seconds?
I want to let you finish.
Yeah,
We've had that come up, your exact question, in the past about license plates and stuff, and it's gone to court maybe 3 or 4 times. The courts, and Tom, maybe you know more than I do, I'm just a dumb cop, not a lawyer, but the courts have said that once you're out in public, you don't have the expectation of privacy. So like a cell phone would be different, obviously, because it's your property, it's your phone. But the license plates are actually like New York State's property, and when you're driving around, that's why the license plate readers can read them. That's my interpretation of it. But we've had a history of that in the past. That's all I want to say. Thank you for the extra time.
all right. Our next speaker is Dawn Filipski.
As a taxpayer of the Fire District of Bellevue, I will speak from our knowledge that a crazy person broke into one of our buildings and stole one of our fire trucks, drove it around the town, drove it all over the place. Luckily, Flock helped find our fire truck. If it wasn't for that, the drone, another piece of technology that the police have in their toolbox, and good old-fashioned police work, looking for the person that they recognized on cameras, we would not have that fire truck back. Our district residents would be paying, I don't even know how much it was worth, $60,000, $70,000, I don't know, $40,000, whatever. That would be on our tax bill. But we did find the truck. Good old-fashioned police work, drones, and Flocks. So think about that before you guys make decisions. And God willing, you don't have to be in that position where somebody steals your grandchild, because if they stole my grandkid, they're going to be paying a price. Other thing is on the transfer of funds from 25. So I did request the budget prep report back February 19th as the date on this report. Easily, I identified that there was over budget on the general fund for the highway superintendent. They were over budget at that point of $8,000, according to my calculations, which is slightly off from what is on the report today, but I had $1,155.86. Today's report, they are taking money from the gas at the highway garage, $3,155, highway water, which is $600 or $500 something, repairs and maintenance out of highway. And then surprisingly, they even took money out of the parks payroll. So the parks department was under payroll. So we took it and we gave it to the highway department. So why was the highway department over budget, you might ask? Let's see. There was a line on page, I don't know what page this is off the top of my head. It was page 4 something. But they were over budget because $0 was budgeted for, it says clerk, senior clerk and clerk typist, but they spent $6,981 on that alone. They also spent additional money that was not budgeted in the payroll. So how did they do this? Why does it take 4 months before we're going to reallocate this money? Why do we not know when these things come due? When payrolls due, why do we not know that payroll is over budget? Why do we not know that we've spent over something in another area? What the heck is going on with our money? Who the hell's watching it? You fired the comptroller. That was 2 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. Who is watching this money? That's the question. I doubt anybody will answer.
Thank you, Dawn. It's been 3 minutes. Our next speaker is Rachel Martinez.
Hello again, board. So before I get to what I was even planning to say today, I just wanted to read you a few quotes from your contract with Flock from 2023. So it says, Flock may access, use, preserve, and/or disclose the footage to law enforcement authorities, government officials, and/or third parties if legally required to do so. Flock may store deleted footage in order to comply with certain legal obligations. That there's a non-exclusive, perpetual, irrevocable, worldwide, royalty-free, fully paid license to use, reproduce, modify, and distribute the agency data as part of the aggregated data. That sounds very different than what I just heard from our reps. So just something to look at. So originally, I'm here to speak to you again because I believe we deserve answers and transparency in order to regain and establish trust between our community, the board, and our police department. Looking back, our entire license plate reader program began in 2013 with a grant from Department of Homeland Security, which already put me on edge. And this was a grant called Buffer Zone Protection Plan Program. This was in place all the way up till 2022 when we decided to ramp up that surveillance by entering into contracts with Flock. This contract has since been revised multiple times to continue to add cameras, including with the GIVE grant in 2023. It's been very clear to me over my time coming to speak to the board that nobody has eyes on this program. It appears that any safeguards that have been put into place were a result of recent public pressure. How can we trust when you say you're protecting our data when everything we have looked up has proved the opposite? The complete lack of oversight of Flock is concerning for so many reasons, including putting the privacy of citizens at risk, the sharing of data nationwide, and opening up this town to the risk of extremely costly lawsuits. The Supreme Court has explained that individuals do have a reasonable expectation of privacy in public, and that was upheld with U.S. v. Jones related to vehicle tracking and Carpenter v. U.S. related to cell phone location data. The board has so far not had any idea what we were paying for the cameras, when contracts were due to be renewed, how many different agencies we were sharing with, even after we came in and asked multiple times. I don't know how you can sit here and say you're protecting us when you don't have the answers to a single one of the basic questions and seem to have made no effort to look it up even after confronted with those concerns. After we did the research and saw the lack of security, only then did any changes begin to happen. And instead of taking the time to review the Flock contracts that we have, address the security concerns, and ensure that the benefits outweigh the risk, you instead are sitting here proposing to add more. How does that show you give a single shit about our safety? Since none of you who were elected decided to really look this up, I just wanted to show you what some of the things were we found. When we looked up the data initially, we were sharing with over 1,600 different agencies. And as recently as last year, our cameras were used to assist ICE and Border Control. On the accountability portal, traffic enforcement was listed as prohibited use, but in the last month, the majority of reasons put in were traffic infractions. So who's keeping an eye on this? The ACLU wrote a scathing article in 2022 related to concerns around Flock. They stated if Flock cameras become as widespread and densely placed as the company hopes, law enforcement will gain the ability to know the detailed movements of virtually any vehicle as far into the past as the data is held. That would create enormous risks of privacy violations and other abuses and would have significant legal implications as well. They go on to explain further that by pulling all the data recorded by its customers, including police, into its own centralized servers, Flock not only creates an enormously powerful private-public machine sweeping up data on Americans' activities, but puts itself at the machine's center. It's bad enough when law enforcement engages in mass surveillance, but to have such data flowing through a private company creates an additional set of incentives for abuse. Keep in mind that was written in 2022, and these concerns have only compounded since then.
I'm sorry to cut you short, but we're over 3 minutes.
I got one last paragraph and then I'll be done.
Okay. Sure.
With that said, I agree with the ACLU stance that flock should be completely eradicated, but at very minimum, there should be the absolute strictest standards in place to protect us, including deleting any data, any non-hit data within 3 minutes. A plate can be matched against a hot list in seconds. No hot list should be used unless certified by independent auditors, and no third-party sharing of data with any agencies who do not follow the same policies as above. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Ryan Tauren.
Good evening. I come tonight to speak about Resolution 342 and the amendment of the contract with Flock. Since 2021, 82 Flock contracts have been terminated across 28 states, 39 of them since January of this year. Communities are not rejecting public safety in particular, but there's specific concern with a vendor with a documented accountability problem. We have to consider the liability as well that the town and the members of this board are accepting, right? Independent testing done by the Electronic Freedom Foundation has found that 10% misidentification rate with Flock cameras, with at least 12 documented wrongful law enforcement encounters, including gunpoint stops and canine attacks. That exposure would then land on the town to pay for legal fees and repercussions with that. Then there's a transparency problem. Flock's own published guidance instructs agencies to consider minimizing data availability, case numbers, and from audit logs, and negotiating narrower timeframes and upfront fees for residents to file public records. Along with that, they are actively coaching departments on how to limit public oversight of their own surveillance data. If we're told the system is audited monthly, we have to ask ourselves, by whom and how often can residents see it? At the moment, there is a bill in the New York State Assembly, A907, that would establish statewide minimum standards on ALPR use, data sharing, and requiring public posting of agency policies. This board could take proactive stances, look at current data and legislation on the books across the state, and go ahead and put that forward as well. I do want to reiterate, though, how important it is for our police to have the tools they need to be safe and fight crime. That is paramount for all of us. However, and especially in the past year, as more data and information on Flock has been unearthed, the concerns about this company and their handling of that data have grown exponentially. The public trust has been eradicated. I'm asking you tonight that before you vote yes on this resolution, you should consider improving the data use policy, making an independent oversight board, putting together a community forum. And finally, just this evening, we heard over and over again that you own this data. Perhaps there is a need to put new legislation forward and policies in place to make sure that data cannot be shared with anyone, so that, again, that those issues are not put on you as a board and us as a town and residents and taxpayers to pay when issues do rise. Thank you.
Our next speaker, I've got Peter.
Hello, my name is Peter, and I'm coming as a concerned community member. I work as a web developer, and in my time, I've worked on hundreds of web servers, point-of-sale systems, and security camera systems, and it is due to my experience in the cybersecurity of these matters that I am appalled by the lack of security of Flock cameras. When we look at the independent research of what Flock does to secure themselves, we see insufficient measures across the board. Digital security is lacking, and when we look at the independent research of Ben Jordan, we found that there are over 70 streams of insecure Flock data being broadcasted across the internet, that anybody, anywhere, with a little bit of digital sleuthing could find these camera feeds and watch from anywhere in the world. Earlier, we were told that there is not improper disclosure to federal agencies, but that is clearly and demonstrably false when anybody from anywhere in the world can find the feeds of these cameras. And this goes beyond that. In the world of cybersecurity, vulnerabilities are often documented. One such documented repository is MITRE. And when you look at MITRE's records of critical vulnerabilities that Flock cameras have had, you will see a long history of unacceptable critical vulnerabilities. Flock cameras are not and never have been secure. Not They are not secure against improper disclosure to federal agencies. They are not secure against improper disclosures to anybody who has a little bit of digital background and is willing to be a little bit dishonest.
Our next speaker is Scott Conway.
Supervisor and members of the board, I urge you to deny the Chief Geauga Police Department's request to purchase additional flock LPRs, which are used for mass surveillance without the need for warrants or even probable cause. By this point, if you've been listening to my peers, I hope that the negative aspects from the use of LPR technology are clear. I'd like to focus on the fact that Flock in particular is an abhorrent company and that you shouldn't do business with them under any circumstances. I'm going to touch on security standards again. Flock LPR cameras use a custom build of the Android operating system that runs on your cell phones. However, it uses a debug kernel in software releases, which is only meant to be used for debugging purposes, not in live environments. Although I don't know why they choose to ship software that use debug kernels, it is a clear sign of incompetence. These devices store criminal justice data. Flock claims to be SOC 2 compliant. Whatever papers and compliance acronyms they show you, know that they are making needless and dangerous technical decisions. They do not deserve to be trusted with any confidential data. An independent security audit of Flock devices by GainSec last year discovered 51 vulnerabilities affecting Flock hardware and software. Many of them covered extremely basic issues that any company that's serious about cybersecurity would have addressed before shipping a product. All software and hardware have security issues, but the vulnerabilities discussed in GainSec's report exceed what should be accepted by any customer, especially when such products store critical data regarding people's everyday movements. In short, with issues like these, you cannot trust compliance certifications. And next, touching on contract language again. The most recent contract that Chief Geauga signed with Flock didn't say much. It instead directed to Flock's Terms and Conditions webpage, which can be updated by Flock whenever they feel like it. Although I can't speculate as to how they'll change this text in the future, as of February 2026, the terms define customer data in part as, quote, data and information captured by Flock hardware and the metadata associated therewith, end quote. Further, the terms state that, quote, customer hereby grants Flock a limited, non-exclusive, royalty-free, irrevocable, perpetual worldwide license to use customer data to support and improve Flock's products and services, end quote. There are no restrictions on how Flock may use customer data, which includes images, audio, and video captured by Flock cameras. They can use it to train AI models or even sell it, even though they say they won't. The terms also contain they used to contain a sale of data clause, but that clause is gone now. One use of that data might be for fun by peeking at the children in the gymnastics center, as we've discussed previously. All of this is to say that Flock, regardless of the invasive technology they lease to you, is an awful company. They do not properly secure their devices or respond to disclosed vulnerabilities in a timely manner. They cannot be trusted with the critical data their products generate. Their contract terms can change at their whim, and they claim perpetual access to all generated data while leaving the sale of such data as an option. And to clarify, the data that you have a copy of is deleted at the end of the retention period, but they can retain it for their uses. I again urge you to deny the Chief Geauga Police Department's request to purchase additional Flock LPRs. And one moment. So yeah, they keep the data after it's deleted for you. For the auditing portal, when the Flock reps are talking about it, they said that misuse could be, someone tracking a missing person, or I forget the other examples, but they always said something else. Here's what that something else could be. Stalking spouses or ex-partners, an officer performing searches for a third party for payment, or even a compromised user account. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Alex Hedges.
My name is Alex Hedges, and I have come to make a statement on the proposed expansion of automatic license plate recognition, ALPR use described in Resolution 2026-342. I spoke against the resolution at this meeting 2 weeks ago, and multiple council members pointed out that privacy is difficult when we all carry around our phones. I agree that Google's business practices are horribly invasive, but we don't have any leverage over Google as a company. However, that doesn't mean we should just give up on trying to maintain our own privacy. One thing we do have control over is contracts signed at the local level, such as this one with Flock. The dangerous difference between Flock and ALPR in general is that the former's national networking and information sharing makes everything much more dangerous. As a comparison, Google tracking all our locations is much easier to abuse than if we were to all keep private diaries of our travels. ALPR can be done on a completely local level without mass surveillance. ALPR systems can flag stolen vehicles, given a list of license plates, and police departments can choose to share such lists with other municipalities. Flock has these features, but their centralized control and networking is a major vector for abuse. And as a side note, wouldn't it be better for us to own our own infrastructure instead of renting it and dealing with the whims of the renters? Do not sign any more contracts with surveillance companies that do not respect our privacy. Thank you for your time.
Then our next speaker for public comment, I've got Glenn.
Evening, Supervisor, board members. Thanks for the opportunity to be part of this process. For better or worse, what I would like to discuss has nothing to do with what we've been talking about the entire time, although it has been more than fascinating. I've been a lifelong resident of Cheektowaga, taxpayer. I live over in Andre's place. Several years ago, the town did a bunch of work on my street, damaged things pretty severely. I have this exhaustively documented with photos and all the people I've talked to at the town, that my 3 minutes will not allow me to elaborate on. I've escalated this and gone to the assemblyman, and things are really a mess there. And I've tried to contact my point of contact here, which was Jennifer Hill, and she's just basically ignored me and not returned my calls. My neighbors are pretty pissed about this as well. It's a very simple matter of just getting some soil in and taking care of some very, very simple things. And I guess, it was suggested to me that I would come here and speak in this forum and perhaps get some advice from you folks. And so I would ask you in my 3 minutes, what should I do at this point? Everything got trashed. I got lied to by the town, which is really not cool. I treated the people with a great deal of respect, and they seemed like everything was legit. And then I was told, people are frequently unhappy with the results of these things, and my question is why? What do you suggest that I do at this point? And before I turn it over, because I'm sure other people have more important things to say than me.
As much as I can say that I have some familiarity with the case, I know that whether it was our highway or engineering department, we've been out to do some follow-up on that. I'm not aware of the most recent conditions of the soil there. I don't know if any other council members can speak to that. But that's as far as I can speak on the issue that I'm aware of it. I know that because I remember there was an issue about this previously, and I know we did some work as a town to rectify the issue.
So just who do I speak to? I know I left a message with Mr. Nowicki because that was advised, and that call was also not returned. 2 of them. I have dates here, but I don't. I have 3 minutes. So.
We can follow up on offline after this.
Shall I contact you directly then, sir?
You and I can have a conversation about what we can do. If you would be so kind as to approach, you've got my cards there with my phone and email. You can also find the information on the website.
Okay, great. Right. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Well, there you are. Our next speaker is Jess Greenwald.
All right. Hi, my name is Jess Greenwald. I'm a resident of Cheektowaga, and I've lived here for over 25 years. I think it's important that we've been bringing these issues to you for nearly more like 4 months since the end of February. And most of you haven't given it serious attention until this last week, when you realized that we were going to be having a presence. You shouldn't just be bringing your A game for public pressure. And I also want to say that I think it's disgusting that this forum doesn't give us a a reasonable amount of time to respond to the many things that the flock reps said over the last hour when we had to listen to them. They literally just lied to us. I mean, they said that flock doesn't track people's faces, but we've watched investigative reports of it tracking people's faces. They were just talking about the ACLU and some of their suggested changes, but they completely left out that the ACLU's overall recommendation is to not partner with Flock at all. It seems very skewed, and of course they're representing a company and they have to do their best to sell it to you, but I'm trying to remind you here that companies don't vote in elections, your constituents do, and we've been here talking about this for a long time, and we keep hearing denials of wrongdoing, but we've sent you documented misuse, both nationally and locally, behind the scenes. I mean, since the last meeting and today, 1,400 organizations dropped off of our sharing list, and we don't know why that is. That's not increased transparency with your community or accountability. So even if Flock was not a deeply flawed company with 39 contracts that have been canceled this year, not because of leftist ideology, but because of their deeply flawed company and deeply flawed security protocols, even regardless of that, we have very valid concerns with the use of it in Cheektowaga, the placement of it in Cheektowaga, and we have reasons to not want it here. So I think it's kind of ridiculous that we had to sit and listen to this pitch deck where if you guys would give me the time of day, I could point out the many things that they said that were wrong. And I have been since the end of February. And many of us have been together. And it's sad that we have to do all of this to get you guys to do what I think many of us consider to be the right thing. And I would hope that you guys would be better than that. Thanks.
Our next speaker is Felicia.
Hello, thank you. My name is Felicia. I'm a nurse. I'm a property owner, and I'm a business owner of Cheektowaga. First, I would like to address your promotion because I had no idea you were being promoted. You probably don't remember me, but we had a very nasty conversation when your officers falsely arrested and charged 4 children in the town of Cheektowaga. And when I called you for your assistance, you talked to me like I was a child. That was on the docket today, but that was on the docket.
I was just asking your comments address the town.
Okay, so we'll start with, I just wanted to address that because I'm very disappointed that he was promoted. So as far as false identification, we were saying that there was no issues with false identification. However, I was able to access an article where there was a young girl who was ripped out of her vehicle of a BMW that was reportedly stolen in 2023. She was ripped out of that vehicle by gunpoint and held by the police until they realized that they had the wrong plate and the wrong BMW, thanks to your flock cameras. Okay, so it's not safe, and actually, right now, there's numerous lawsuits going on all across everywhere. This one with a wrongful flock camera had a woman wrongfully jailed for 13 days with the face recognition, but it's not looking at our faces though. Okay, so that happened. There's just numerous of these happening. Daytona, Ohio, they're actually going around and putting bags and knocking these flock cameras down. So community members are getting fed up and they're actually cutting them down across all states now. I mean, it's actually documented and they can't keep up. So it's just residents demand removal of flock cameras in Troy, New York. Cameras are leaning. They have been installed without council permission and approval, and they're becoming a disturbance. Cameras want to be removed. Mountain View, California, Daytona, Ohio. Every other state is removing these, and they're here to sell them to you because they have nowhere else to go. And I'm not accepting it. It's an invasion of privacy, and I'm not okay with this. And as far as the security risks, me being a nurse, I know last year I got $4,500 in data breach lawsuits. If a medical facility that I go to as a patient is at risk of a data breach, and this is a hospital or a doctor facility supposed to be most protected, how are they not going to be eligible for a data breach? So it's possible. They say it's not going to be possible. It's going to happen. There's a lot of data breaches going on, and that's not a type of data breach that I want released. That's it. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Our final speaker for public comment this evening is Mara.
Hello, Council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. So kind of came in and realized we're talking about flock today, and we've all heard a lot of things. A lot from the flock representatives, some from our police force, and some from our own council members. I think a lot of good questions were asked by Councilman Thompson, Councilman Nowicki, and I came a little late, so I apologize if I missed some of the other ones. But I think when it comes to privacy, security, and safety of our citizens, we all want people to be safe. People want crimes to get solved. We don't want things to go in a way where everyone feels unsafe. At the same time, things come at a cost, and the tools we give our police force should work in the way we expect them to. We wouldn't sell our cops a faulty gun or a bad plate carrier, or one that works most of the time, but sometimes when you get one, it doesn't work. We don't want that because we want our tools to work. Flock has shown provably and repeatedly to lie to the people it's selling its products to. It's shown consistently to do things it says it doesn't. Sure, you get extra stolen cars, but how much could that be spent on other ways to prevent cars from being stolen? There are so many other tools at our disposal, so many other ways we can accomplish the same things that aren't being sold to us by a used car salesman telling us that the product it's trying to sell us is just going to work. Trust me, bro, it's going to work. And that's what I want to emphasize. We are working with a company that just wants to sell it to us, not protect our constituents, not to keep the people of Cheektowaga safe, and not to actually get things done where we're not going to have other bad actors accessing the system. You hear there's plenty of cases of look at the audit board. It says all these things why they were used, but how do we know they were actually used that way? How do we not know that somebody wrote traffic infraction but they're just stalking their ex, or it's actually somebody doing something we don't want them to do? This is, as so many others have said, no oversight, consistently, repeatedly, does not follow its own policies, and does not want to keep us safe. It just wants to sell us product. We can, even if this is given to us for free, I still think it's not worth it at the risks it provides to our community for breach, for access, and for just watching everything we do. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. That is our final speaker for public comment. So our next order of business is going to be public hearings. And we have one on the agenda this evening. It's for local law number 5 regarding term limits. Madam Clerk.
Call for public hearing was made at the May 26 Town Board meeting, Resolution 2026-345, to discuss limiting the number of terms that a holder of public office in the town may serve.
Thank you. And with that, I'd like to make a motion to open the public hearing. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilmember Nowicki. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The public hearing is open. This proposal is pretty straightforward. It calls for a term limits law in the town of Cheektowaga that would apply to every elected official, with the exception of our town justices. There is legislation in the state legislature right now that would address term limits for judges. I don't believe that's going to the governor's desk for signature. But there's something in committee, I believe. So because of the way the state law is written, we cannot apply our term limits law to the judges. We can apply this to literally everybody else. And that term, the way the law is written, it would be 3 terms for any elected official in a particular position. So for those that may be here for the first time, somebody that's elected as council member can serve up to 3 terms. They would no longer be eligible for the office of council member after that. They could run for a different office in the town, but they wouldn't be allowed to be in that office any further. And that would be regardless of the fact if it's 12 years in a row or 12 years carved up between different terms of office. And there's a couple other caveats in there, but that's essentially what this is about. It was discussed at the town board the last few meetings when the call for public hearing came up, and this was discussed previously, a different iteration of this. So with that, we have a sign-up sheet this evening. We did not have any members of the public sign up. So I'm going to open it up to council members for any comments they may have on the proposal for term limits. And seeing none, hearing none, I'm going to make a motion to close the public hearing. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilmember Elderkin. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Public hearing is closed. That moves us on to our next order of business this evening, which is board discussion. We're up to old business. Is there any old business from council members? Seeing none, hearing none, I'm going to move us on to new business. I've got 3 items this evening. Actually, I have 2 items, and our highway superintendent has got a brief presentation for the board. So we're going to start with Highway Superintendent Ruzniak. For the council members, you may remember earlier in the spring that the plan for today was to have the highway superintendent here to give us an update of our infrastructure work, whether it has to do with road paving, storm sewer work, anything else the highway department is doing. Rick and I had a conversation earlier today. I was working on a slideshow for him. You'll be back in a few weeks for us, right? In some more detail, but today's just going to be a brief overview. And then when we bring Rick back in a couple weeks, we'll open that up to something more extensive and then get into Q&A in a deeper way. So
just an update of what?
Just an update of where we are for.
Just give you an idea where we're at here. We're on a 49 road restoration program. That's with storms, DIs, sewer linings. That's working with engineering, right from the start, how it's all planned, the whole deal. So far, for example, first phase, Lachlan, Heather, Birkdale, Mapleview, Hillside, Hillsborough, Ullman, and Gilmore. Those have been paved already. The quality of the paving is awesome. The guy, you come out on the jobs, stop out and see us, take a look at what they're doing. You can see it in their faces. We got something to do here. They're proud of their work, and it's coming out really nice. We got some nice feedback on emails from residents, so that's looking good. Then we're into phase 2, the Ivanhoe, Marne, Preston, Carroll area off of East Ellivan. The drainage is most complete. We're backfilling the trenches. We're using road wideners. It's sped up the process. So we are on schedule for what we're doing. The crews are doing an awesome job. Actually, some are finishing early. We're into other neighborhoods working on DIs, just maintenance work down the road when we're going to do another restoration. That'll be ready for us. So things will run quicker there. The Ivanhoe area, we're going to start milling back in there on 6/22, and then we should be complete by July 1st. It's our target date to finish the paving over there. Then we got projects starting on like Burdette, Federal, Huth. Those are all drainage projects right now, and that'll get into another phase. Well, we'll do that, and then the 4th phase will be the William Street area. So same thing. The lining's being done, sewer repairs are being done. Those are essential to be done before our paving work. So once the infrastructure's to our standards, we'll go in and mill and fill that too. So other than that, that's where we're at, and we're looking good. We're on schedule. Thank you.
I appreciate it, Rick. Thank you. As I said, Rick will be back in 2 weeks. We're going to have a slideshow ready. We'll have more information for our board members about exactly what's going on and give us a better idea of exactly where we are with the schedule. Rick's dealt with, I've got 2 items here this morning, the first of which has to do with this certificate here. On Saturday, I had the opportunity to attend the Erie County Convention for the American Legion. And while I was at that convention, welcoming guests and thanking them for all the important work that they do, they presented a certificate to me, but it's really to the full town board. So Without reading all of it over, essentially it says, therefore be it resolved that Erie County American Legion and the Francis Donovan Post 1626 expresses their sincere appreciation and gratitude to the town of Cheektowaga for its steadfast support during the last year, and be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be presented to the town board of Cheektowaga and entered into the records of the Erie County American Legion and Francis Donovan Post as a token of our thanks. So because it's presented to the full town board, showing you guys all here, we're going to get that over to the town clerk and it'll make its way over to the record center. If there's any council member that feels very strongly about how we deal with this otherwise, please let me know and we can deal with that. But on behalf of the town board, I accepted this on Saturday. The other item I had on new business has to do with our town parks. Over the last couple weeks, I have gotten to all 16 of the town parks we have listed in our Youth and Rec Summer Guide, just to take a look at them. And by luck of the draw, I had an initial impression, and by the end, I thought about this entirely differently. By the end, I looking at the totality of what we have in our park system, we have a lot of good going on. There's a lot of good to point to of things that are in good shape, and conditions that we should emulate for some of our other parks. We know that our budgets are a little tight, and a lot of our general fund areas in the Parks Department is dealing with a tight budget. So we'll be getting to some of the questions about some of the areas for improvement there. It's with the idea in mind that we have a lot of good going on in our park system, and I'm proud of a lot of what we have to offer, but this isn't a criticism, it's a description of where we are. There's some areas for improvement, and I'm not going to get into details here tonight, but there's some common threads that I'll work with the town board members on. I do want to mention a couple things that we as a board need to help our Parks Department with, because we give them a budget, we give them a staff, and we say, hey, get out there, good luck, have a great time, do the best you can. So when we find some of these areas that need improvement, we have to work together as a team to make sure that they're on our agenda, whether it's through the rest of 26 and going forward. Working with Mark Mez, we've had a lot of back and forth calls on some particular parks, and every time I call, he's got an answer and a plan. And if there's not an answer and a plan, there's an answer quickly, and the plan is, hey, let's take care of this somewhere down the road, or here's what we're working on already, or here's the partners in government we're working with to try to address an issue. But some of the things I want this board to keep in mind going forward for the next 3 years is that an area like North Creek, South Creek Park, the equipment there is aged, and we should have a plan to improve that. Over at the Maryvale Pools, we had an internal discussion about how to deal with that. And thank you, Mark, for getting that on the agenda to be painted by the end of the year. It does look good, and I know it's not perfect, but that's in solid shape. But we got to make sure that that gets done. And if you need any resources, please reach out to us. We'll help out with that. In a couple of the parks, there were graffiti, but Mark and the team have been on that. But it's not just in Hanley; it's in other places. But in a couple of parks, there was some loose equipment that we can deal with. But there were faded signs and issues with the benches, and that was a common thread through a lot of these parks. And again, it's not to blame anybody; it's just to describe what I saw. And when we're discussing the budget for the Parks Department, I know that's an area where it's discretionary, but if we want to have a first-class park system and have all 16 of these parks look like most of them do, there are needs in Winston Vigola Park. There are needs in Hanley. There's needs at North Creek and South Creek. There's areas for improvement in other places, whether it's faded signs or painting and things like that. We just got to make sure that we put together a realistic list of within our resources of what we want to tackle. Like things like faded signs, it's very easy to get the sign shop out there to make sure that we replace that with a sign that has handicap language in that. If that's if it's an ADA related sign or whatever it may be. There's still some COVID signs out at a few parks. A lot of them were taken down. There's opportunity to take those down. It's just a lot. Some of it's the finer points, but there are a handful of parks where we need to work with our partners in county and state government and within our own budget to make sure that we're giving resources to the Parks Department to take care of some of this equipment. So just wanted to put that on the radar, and I'll open it up to the council members.
One of the things I'd like to add is because I was talking with Mark Mez is over at Sigermau Park or Lawson Park, the casino that's shut down, closed up. There's a lot of repairs that needs to be done on that. And we need to address what we want to do with that. Do we spend mega bucks to repair that building, or do we tear it down and make a nice big shelter like we have at Cheektowaga Town Park?
This is where you listen to your folks. You know, the job is supervisor, not micromanager. And some great ideas came out of the Parks Department and Engineering with their discussions on what to do with it. And as much as I'd love to see that rehab to its former glory, you have to think about the use of a building and be utilitarian about it, right? And the idea came up was to turn that into a 3-season style building. There are issues with the roof. There are issues with water entry, as you guys well know. And I fear that that building is at a place that it would cost more to rehab than it would to level and replace it with something more useful. Councilmember, I know you looked like you wanted to speak to, would you like the floor? Or?
Sure.
Okay.
One of the things on my new business item was actually about that casino there. So I'm pretty certain there is a grant that was awarded towards rehabbing that, and we had money set aside. This was something that came up in very early in my time here, so I'm not sure where that sits or if anybody's familiar with that at all.
Best answer I have right now is during the youth hunting saga, I spent some time at the county legislature, and at one of those meetings that I went to, I ran into Legislator Todaro. He and I had a very brief conversation about that building, that site, the funding. He assured me the funding was still there, let him know what the town wants to do with the property, and then we can go ahead and apply whatever expenses we generate against that grant. So if the scope of work on that is going to change, it's probably best that we inform the county to say, we're not going to do X anymore, we're going to do Y, but we can make amendments to that application. The money is still there for us, but it has been a little while since we applied. So the board is going to have to act on the suggestion that I'm aware of to turn that casino building into a 3-season building. We don't have the full board with us tonight. We can deal with this question between meetings if we're in agreement on that. And I don't like that as a taxpayer or a representative or as a citizen in the town, but what's best for everybody, and it's about the usefulness of that building. So I do think our best bet is to take advantage of the funding that we have on a limited budget to make use of that, and by turning it into a 3-seasons building as proposed in conversations with Parks and Engineering. So.
Can I just ask, from the history of this grant, is it specifically just for the rehab and we could amend it for a turning down, or is it a parks grant in general? So if we spent less doing the 3-season, we could use some of that grant for other park projects.
Councilmember Thompson, I'm sure, can add to this, but my recollection of this is it's a 50-50 grant, that half of the money would come from the town, half would come from Erie County by way of Legislator Todaro, and that we would have a combination of about $300,000 to deal with the property in question. And when you're dealing with a building as old as that is, regarding asbestos, the leaking, questions about the foundation, having to deal with the fireplace that's in there, proposals are easily going to get us over $300,000 to rehab it. It's to make use of that property in a way that isn't the building itself.
What about the 3-season? What is that number?
I don't think we have an exact quote. Not to put you on the spot, Mark. You don't have a quote, right?
No.
Okay. So he's not a no. I don't want to pull you up here tonight unless you want to hit the podium. Well, let me know. But yeah, it's just going the 3-seasons route essentially with the garage, with like that. Ream Park has something much like this that I'd be picturing. If you make your way over there, they've got a soccer field and something like that building there that I'm picturing. There's one at Town Park too that would be some version of this. I'm hoping we can do something with a few more bells and whistles, but that's basically what I got in mind. Think of a glorified garage where you can do concessions or things like that. Any other council members on the casino building, on the parks? All right. Any other new business from council members?
I have two hopefully quick things. One was, does anybody know when the highway garage is going to be repaired? That roof with the salt barn in it?
Oh, the salt barn. Rick, do you have a moment to speak to the salt barn?
Thought we put RFPs out and awarded
Yeah,
everything.
the main roof on the back garage, that's
Yeah.
almost complete. They got another 20% to go. And the salt barn, the fabric's in. It just got in, so they're fabricating the new cover for it. So as soon as that's done, we've already moved all the equipment out from around it. So as soon as they get here, they can hit the ground running. So it should be shortly.
Okay.
Okay.
And I did see, maybe it's not related, there was something on the warrant I saw pertaining to salt. Are we purchasing any salt or anything right now?
No, not right now. We got it emptied. We had about
Compass Materials.
600-700 ton left over. We moved it over to Depew. They had room in their salt barn. So when we take our salt orders, they're going to take the amount and ship it right directly to us to replace it.
What?
We had to make room for these guys to get inside the building. We had extra salt. Okay, so we moved it over to Depew.
Is that what that cost is?
No, no, there's no cost that is all for that. But yes, we buy salt every year. We buy 8,000 to 10,000 ton a year. That's in our budget. So we have a little left over from last year yet.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but these are the pair of invoices on the warrant from February 6th? There were two on the warrant. Yeah, there's on our warrant tonight. There's two invoices for rock salt, and when I pulled up the invoices, they were dated February 6th. I mean, was it just invoices that the company?
Invoices that came through as they were shipping it to us. They invoice us as it comes in, not a one lump sum thing. So as we buy it, the invoices.
Right, but it's June now.
Then they're putting them in late. That's the material. We took the material, then we have all the scale tickets. So everything should match.
My understanding of those two invoices was it was product we received earlier in the year. They just didn't, those invoices just didn't make it from the highway department over to accounting. So they're getting processed a little later than they usually would. But, it's pretty much a clearance of the accounting situation going into the summer.
Okay.
Is that it?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other new business? Okay. Seeing none, hearing none, we'll move to the consent agenda announcement. A consent agenda is contained in this meeting. The consent agenda is designed to make the meeting shorter and more efficient. Items left on the consent agenda may not be discussed when the consent agenda comes before the town board. If any council member wishes to discuss a consent agenda item, please tell me now and I will remove the item from the consent agenda and it will be added as a separate resolution item. So this evening, I am not aware of any items. I don't have any items. Any council member have items they would like removed? Okay.
2026, 375. (2026) 384, 2026 386, 2026 387, 2026 390,
387, 390.
and the last is 404.
404. Madam Clerk, I had 6 resolutions. Is that what you had?
Correct.
Resolutions from council members. Okay, I believe we're all set.
Okay. I need, can I have a motion and a second to approve the meeting agenda?
Motion.
I second. I have a motion by Supervisor Nowak, seconded by Councilmember Elderkin. All in favor? Aye. Have one item that was left on the table. Is there a motion and a second to move resolution item 2026-342 to the table for consideration?
Motion.
Second to the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I need a
Madam Clerk,
unanimous.
I'm opposed. Can we have a roll call on that?
Councilmember Bukowski?
Yes.
Councilmember Elderkin? No. Councilmember Nowicki?
No.
Councilmember Thompson?
Yes.
Supervisor Nowak?
I am a no.
Motion will not be taken up tonight. We are moving on to the consent agenda. I need a motion and a second to approve all items on the consent agenda, including the meeting minutes of May 26, 2026, and including resolution items 2026-375 through 409. We will recognize that resolution items that were removed and will be taken as separate votes are 375, 384, 386, 387, 390, and 404. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second? 75, 84, 86, 87, 90, and 404. Yes? Second?
I'll second.
By Councilmember Bukowski, seconded by Stephen Nowicki. All in favor of the resolution items by roll call vote. Councilmember Bukowski?
Yes.
Councilmember Elderkin?
Yes.
Councilmember Nowicki?
Yes.
Councilmember Thompson?
Yes.
Supervisor Nowak?
Yes.
All items on the consent agenda have been approved. We will move on to the separate resolution items. That includes Resolution 2026-375, the transfer of funds, sponsored by Supervisor Nowak, seconded by Councilmember Elderkin. The following transfer is hereby approved and made part hereof.
On the question?
Yeah, just a few questions on this. Why the large transfer? I mean, there's certainly things I can go line by line that I have marked off, but I don't know if there's anything that you can speak to. I mean, one of the biggest ones is recycling contractor. I thought we had an agreement with them for a set amount of years. I'm not sure what changed or if that's, a different delivery charge.
If I can kick it off, I'll throw it over to Brian Kraus. On the recycling contract, part of that situation has to do with variable costs within the recycling, that there's fixed cost to that contract. There's also variable depending on the commodity costs and things like that. Brian Kraus can get more into what was budgeted and what the bills ultimately were as far as that goes. But I can say for the sanitation district, which is the 150 district, I knew that payroll and overtime were going to be challenges there. So I'm not surprised to see that we had a transfer into the overtime payroll line to address the labor cost for that district. That's that district's one where we're spending around 99 cents on the dollar right now, out of what we budget. So Brian Kraus, could you get to other aspects of the councilman's question?
Right. Well, so the recycling contractor, it was a contract that it was relatively new. On top of it, yes, Supervisor's correct. There's a variable pricing aspect to the market and what the recycling items bring in revenue-wise, I believe. So, being that it's a newer contract that has that variable pricing or variable different variables, we missed the mark by that much money. And ultimately, yes, it's a contract. We have to pay those prices, and so we overshot that budget, and we needed to do this budget transfer. All these budget transfers are end of year budgets that we're finalizing our 2025 audit currently, and so this is the final items that needed to be cleaned up from the standpoint of the budget.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, based on what you just said, generally, say if we didn't need to transfer this to a specific line, these monies would go into a reserve fund?
Well, that's how the budget generally is. If there's some excess in some lines, yes, those would go back to the fund balance, correct?
And so right now we're transferring to a lot of these different lines. And is that something that you've found, Mr. Kraus, to say, based on our trajectory right now, we're short in these lines? Or is that something you found, Supervisor, or is it a department head? I'm just wondering how this came.
If I could, and then, for 26, yeah.
This is for 25. That's the thing. These are end of year 2025 final budget transfers. So these have nothing to do with our current situation.
So you're saying to balance 2025, this needed to be transferred to the contracted clerical. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, gotcha.
So what we're getting.
I don't need any more explanation.
Yeah, I was just saying for 26, when we were talking about the budget, 70 cents on the dollar of these transfers are two lines. It's the legal personnel, as you can see, in the utilities. When we were going through that general fund, identified legal personnel as an area that we're gonna blow that. There's gonna be a cost overrun. So if we want to engage in a mid-year transfer for 26, look, I'll put my name on that right now, but we're going to need more money there. And as far as utilities go, we all know that electric rates and gas rates are up considerably. I mean, natural gas for my house, the bills are double of what they were last year, and I am not using that much more. So for the town, I'd imagine that's the same thing on the gas side. On the electricity, I don't need to say anything. So I'd imagine we're going to see cost overruns for utilities again here in 26. I'm happy to look through the budget, make adjustments before December 31st, so that way we have enough money in those lines. But I guarantee you, before December 31st, we're going to have cost overruns in those areas.
One thing I will comment on is that in the past, this end of year 2025 budget transfer has been significantly more voluminous, multiple pages of things. And this is a testament to this board saying, hey, let's keep our finger on the pulse here. During the year, the department heads they did their very best to keep things within the budget lines that they should. And this is just kind of like some of these things that maybe come through at the end of the year that we maybe didn't anticipate, maybe we did, but we didn't have enough budget money in some of these lines. And so I'm just saying we did the department heads did a very good job of monitoring their budgets in this 2025 year.
Thank you for that.
Anyone else on the question? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries.
Resolution 2026-384, sponsored by Supervisor Noack and council members Elderkin and Nowicki. India Cummings died in the Erie County Holding Center in 2016 following a medical crisis. Following her death, New York State Commission of Corrections found that India Cummings' death was a homicide due to medical neglect and that her medical care was so grossly incompetent and inadequate as to shock the conscience. New York Senate Bill 9126A, Assembly Bill A-10718A, known as India's Law, would require notifications to be sent to authorized next of kin when incarcerated individuals experience serious medical or mental health crises within 24 hours of said event. Town of Cheektowaga Council urges passage of India's Law and calls on the governor and legislature of the state of New York to make the following legislation: Senate Bill 126A and A-10718A the law of New York State.
Question? All right.
For myself, I was just wondering what this had to do with our town.
It's a fair question. Folks that are detained in the town of Cheektowaga are residents. At times make their way over to the Erie County Holding Center. I can cite particular cases, but I'll refrain for that tonight. What this legislation would do is help improve conditions in facilities where Cheektowaga residents may end up at certain points in time. We all know that the issues in corrections facilities and jails are challenging for everybody involved, whether it's the inmates themselves, obviously corrections officers and the employees there, going down to the folks that clean the place and cook the food and do all this stuff. This proposal would be a change that would empower, as it says, empowers chief medical officers in correctional facilities to authorize transfers to individuals that have need, and it would require notification sent to next of kin, so that way the folks that are on the outside have a better idea of what's going on with their loved ones in facilities, and it would improve the certain aspects of care that inmates are getting. And conditions in these facilities are tough for everybody. I see this law as just as much as a notification empowering these chief medical officers that if we find residents of our town ending up in facilities like this, it leads to a situation where they may not die in custody. So, any other council members on the item? All right. Madam Clerk, may I have a roll call vote?
We have a roll call vote on Resolution 384. Councilmember Bukowski?
Yes.
Councilmember Eldricken?
Yes.
Councilmember Nowicki?
Yes.
Councilmember Thompson?
No.
Supervisor Noack?
Yes.
Resolution 2026-386, sponsored by Supervisor Noack, seconded by Councilmember Eldricken. Per Resolution 2012-215 of April 16, 2012, the town purchased Business Automation Services, or BAS, computer software program to better manage the building permit process and building inspection system. The town is in the process of migrating from this platform to a new cloud source solution, SmartGov, by Granicus LLC. The town is in need of sustaining the current software system during this migration period. Admins GovTech of Northfield, New Jersey has submitted a quote for continuation of services in lieu of an annual service invoice for a service extension through June 30th, 2026, with payment due August 1st, 2026. The Town Board of Cheektowaga hereby authorizes the payment of the aforesaid software maintenance fees to continue previously bid services for dates rendered.
Right, on the question?
Yeah, I have a question about this. So this is for their day-to-day operations, correct?
My understanding, yes.
This has been a topic I've touched on before as far as their operations, and my hope would be not so much going out to a residence or a business because there was a call or a complaint. They should be driving down the street and see, oh my God, look at, this violation here. Let's talk to the homeowner. Let's see if there's a homeowner. If not, issue a violation. That is, in my opinion, the only reason there should be funding going towards that department to improve the efficiency, because right now I tried to get something like this off last year when we had a new code enforcement officer taking over, and they said it was a big lift. And I've cited driving on my way here. You look to your left, driving by Thruway Plaza, and it looks terrible. I mean, why is that even a conversation? We talk about making our parks beautiful, but look, when you drive by all these dilapidated buildings, let's find out who the owners are. Let's find out, let's hold somebody responsible. I mean, what does this benefit if not that? And I mean, you drive to, other municipalities and you're like, wow, this is beautiful. It's welcoming. And you drive into, some areas of our town and you can't say that. Yeah, I've lived here my whole life. Yeah, you can't say that. It's a fact. So this is something that I feel is very important, and unless it is improving that or expanding on that, I don't see why we would have a need for this. I don't know if any of you are a little bit more intimate with this and can speak to it more, but I know, Supervisor, you remember these conversations that we've had, and as a board, we've all had agreements on to make our city attractive and beautiful, but this is something that we can control.
So in the resolution, the third whereas says, per resolution 2024-700, the town is in the process of migrating from this platform to a new cloud source solution, SmartGov by Granicus, and then it lists the address. We're basically phasing out the old cloud solution process, the Edmunds GovTech, and we're going over to we're phasing out the Granicus aspect and going over, or we're going to Granicus. I'm sorry, just kind of all over the place right here. So we're going from one system to another. It's not like we're adding a service or taking something away. We're moving from one type of it to another. But when you get to the question of issues with code enforcement and redevelopment, it's a complicated thing. I mean, you talk about driving around, and I can agree with you. Like, I have to get an email out about 2 properties that I saw on Union Road. There's one, the old Psychic place. The grass is over a foot high at that point. We got to do something to get that cited and on the process. The other property I saw was in around the 2900 block of Union Road, where the grass is considerably high. So you see the grass, and then I look and I see on the door that it's been cited already. So when I ask about these 2, I'm expecting for the residential unit, I'm going to get an update of what code enforcement has already been doing. For the other property, I'm not so sure. It may have been cited already in its beginning of the process, but I mean, if it's not, that's something that's been way overgrown that, yeah, I would like to see it be more proactive. I know in my experience dealing with code enforcement, the last time I stopped in to talk about other grass complaints in person, I got mixed results. It was, okay, we haven't gotten to that issue yet, ranging from say no more, we've already cited this person, or code enforcement knowing a particular home's history and showing some grace or giving them a little bit of patience to say this person's on the issue, they're going to deal with it. That deals with like the proactive enforcement or the reactive enforcement and those type of issues. But on the redevelopment side, this board has had a recent history, and part of the issue when it comes to that with some of the empty plazas is that we're overbuilt on the retail side, and we're heavy on retail, so we need to be creative on what we need to do. But the other part of it, quite frankly, is some of the developers that have come before us have gotten jerked around. They've been told one thing, and then the 11th hour, some things changed. In other instances, they got a message that wasn't run by us first. There's a range of issues that led to issues with particular properties. Before the week is out, you're going to see some good news on a particular development, I hope. But we do see businesses coming in, and I know there's the trope of it's car washes and it's coffee shops and it's pot shops, but it's more than that. We do see small mom and pop restaurants opening up. We see that the former DLC Plaza where Sam's Club and all that is, but there's some new uses coming into there. We have the largest indoor shopping mall in all of Western New York, and the occupancy rate is over 90% right now, which is something to be commended despite the issues that, shopping malls have in Walden and Galleria have. But yeah, we also have issues with some of the other properties that it takes time to find a tenant and all that. One of the things we can do comes into the zoning code and in changing that. Councilman Nowicki and I and Filipski prior, we've been working on doing a partial zoning overhaul, but addressing that is one of the many things we could do to make redevelopment more attractive. You know, we've got a junior planner now that gives us an opportunity for some breathing room to be more proactive on planning. And I don't mean to go in 15 directions on it, but you asked an essential question. And I think we could find a lot of common ground on those things. So, any other questions on this? Seeing none, hearing none? All in favor? Any opposed? That carries.
Resolution 2026-387, sponsored by Councilmember Nowicki, seconded by Supervisor Nowak. Town of Cheektowaga Sewer Department has identified the need to purchase a spare pump for the Holtz Road Pump Station located at 660 Holtz Road in Cheektowaga to serve as a backup unit and provide operational redundancy in the event of a pump failure. The town board hereby authorizes the purchase of one spare flight pump and associated equipment for the Holtz Road Pump Station from Fleet Pump and Service Group pursuant to proposal number 260602-1518 MHD in the amount of $17,983.
Okay, on the question?
Question where the money's coming from. It says provided from an account furnished by the town finance director.
That's a good question. If Councilmember Nowicki wants to jump on, I know he's on the resolution as well. In the consent agenda, 2026-388, we had a resolution for an identical pump for a different station. Price is the same. This one would go to the Reen Road Pump Station, and that one was coming out of the particular sewer fund, 255-8125-2500.
Yep.
We're going to need to do a transfer into that line, in my view, to cover the cost of this one. We're going to have to go to the reserve funds for it. There was an ask for 3 pumps. I think at this time it's worthwhile to get 2. That doesn't fully cover the sewer department's request for pump backups, but to have 2 backups rather than just 1 gives us a little bit more breathing room than with the single pump. So to answer your question directly, we're going to have to go to our reserve funds and to cover the cost of this. Any other council members on the item?
Just that this was brought to our attention by our department head by just the fact that normally heavy industrial equipment like this doesn't really go on sale. It's not often a thing that happens in the way that these did. And we're just trying to capitalize on that, really. There's no right or wrong answer whether we do this or don't do this. It's just sort of a limited time opportunity, a truly limited time opportunity to get equipment that we need in the town in reserves at a cheaper price than normal. So this is just our way of getting one pump that was within the budget that we had for, and another one to capitalize on the savings while we had the opportunity there. The department chiefs thought that that would be the best choice for us to make. We kind of settled in the middle. He wanted 3. He could settle for 1. We kind of split the difference and went with 2. But that's sort of how we got to where we are right now.
All right. Anyone else on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries.
Resolution 2026-390 is sponsored by Councilmember Nowicki, seconded by Supervisor Nowak. The Buffalo Bills, oh, I'm sorry. Hold on. Oh, yeah, I'm right. Okay. The Buffalo Bills organization has agreed to donate 120 LED sports lighting fixtures to the town of Cheektowaga for future use in town-owned parks and recreational facilities. Ferguson Electric Construction Company of Buffalo, New York is currently contracted to perform the demolition and related work at Highmark Stadium and has provided the town with a proposal in the amount of $34,945 to provide crane operations, labor, equipment, and associated services necessary to remove the 2 lighting standards and facilitate the turnover of 120 LED lighting fixtures in the town. Power and Construction Group, Inc. of Rochester, New York, has provided the town with a proposal in an amount not to exceed $4,800 to uninstall the LED lighting fixtures from the light standards and take possession of the said fixtures on behalf of the town. The town board has determined that acceptance of the said donation and authorization of the associated removal and transfer work is in the best interest of the town and will provide long-term operational, recreational, and energy efficiency benefits to the town's parks facilities. The town board of the town of Cheektowaga hereby accepts the donation from the Buffalo Bills organization. In resolved, the town board hereby further authorizes Power and Construction Group to perform the necessary work associated with uninstalling the LED light fixtures from the lighting standards and taking possession of said fixtures on behalf of the town in the amount not to exceed $4,800.
Okay, on the question.
So this is 120 lighting fixtures or one fixture with 120 bulbs?
The resolution, I believe it made reference to 2 fixtures that would have a total of 120 LED sports lighting fixtures.
This is essentially there's 2 big masts that are at the old Bill Stadium right now that they're relatively new, not a lot of use on them. And I don't know, I think it's like 5 by 6 by 2. So it's like a 5 by 6 grid on both sides of the tower that have all the lights on them. That's why there's the second bit at the bottom about the Power and Construction Group disassembling them, because it's going to come down as the unit. I'm pretty sure they're 5 by 6 on both sides of the tower. And then they're just going to disassemble them and store them for us until we put them to use at the town. That's my understanding of the setup that they have.
I'm real grateful to the Buffalo Bills organization and their rep that reached out. You know, the resolution makes note to the cost associated with transportation and putting the LED lights into our equipment at the parks. Mark, I don't mean to put you on the spot. Is there anything you can add to this that'll help understand that better? Because I know you read this at first go and it sounds like we're going to a rummage sale and saying, hey, we got $322 a light or $330 a light. That's a great deal. But there are needs in the parks that Mark can speak to that once this equipment gets here, these lights will be put to use relatively quickly. So, Mr. Mez, good evening.
Good evening, Town Board. Supervisor, if I could rewind, I want to thank you for taking the time and checking out our main parks and 16 parks. We were on the horn a lot last week, and it was a lot of good coming from it. We have new management. I want to just say one thing. If it wasn't for the men and women working in facilities and what they do, the things that the town doesn't see and you all don't see, that working through breaks to get this historic rain we had, for them to go through and cut. We did an emergency overtime cutting just to catch up from all that rain. So thank you for going through and having parks on your radar. That's very appreciated.
Yeah, and the town park, the last few times I passed it, I saw our crews out mowing and all that. That's looking solid right now. So
yes, thank you.
But lighting, sir?
They go above and beyond. So to get now back on track with the lighting, our amazing secretary at facilities was smiling ear to ear. I walk in and go, what's going on here? And I thought it was a crank call at first. A Bills rep said he's been playing softball in this park since he was 18 and he's in his mid-50s now. And he notices it's getting a little dark in there. And these lights are old. They're from the 80s. They're non-LED, to clarify. And yes,
I'm sorry, that's our lights right now, not the ones that we're getting from the Bills.
Yes.
I'm forgetting.
No, it's good to play it out. Everyone deserves to hear it. And I thought it was a prank call, and I booted up the Google machine, and this person was really a Bills rep. And speaking with our awesome engineer team, this was a reality, and this was something falling on our lap that doesn't happen often. So with these lights, so I got a quote, to convert one diamond at Lawson Park, it would be about 60 grand just for that diamond. This amount of lights we're getting, like Councilmember Nowicki said, we'd be able to relight every diamond that's currently lighted and then some. And I see the rumor mill saying that we're going Friday night lights, that we're going to all of a sudden airlines. And I have nothing but love for airlines, but that's not in talks. We're going to acquire these lights. The resolution states parks is to store them. We will find a will and a way and an idea to get these lights safely put away. And it's just not parks. If there's somewhere else in town that will need them, this is just an incredible gift from the Buffalo Bills franchise to do this. And From my research, these lights are only 2 to 3 years old, and these aren't Team Blue lights. This is NFL branded, like at a professional football stadium. So it is a blessing, without a doubt. So with that, we have a company coming tomorrow, and we're going to start scoping out parts in the park and whatnot. There's 25 to 30 bulbs per diamond, depending if it's hardball or softball and things like that. And if going through with the blessing of the board of this awesome gift, we're going to make a battle plan. And Lawson Park diamonds are well spoken about across town. I talk to people from other towns. They love coming to Lawson to play softball, hardball tournaments there. And it is always a busy night at Lawson with softball.
All right. Appreciate that. And the only question I would have because you cover basically everything, is my understanding is these LEDs are going to use less electricity than the current lights we have in there, correct?
Correct. And I understand light pollution and whatnot, but it's not going to be any brighter than it is now. So what you currently see at Lawson, that's the equivalent.
And, from my part, just to be transparent, I do have interest personally in trying to light up a few more of those diamonds, but that's just me. It's when I talk to folks within the town, they're not saying, oh, we'll get it done tomorrow. They're having a conversation with an elected official and hearing, what my interests are and saying, well, we'll look into the possibilities for that.
And
so it's always
Supervisor,
been a discussion point that I have initiated,
Right.
just to clear any rumors up.
And with this beautiful donation, we're able to have those conversations. And maybe we would want to look at things at Town Park. I know you mentioned, Supervisor, even our Diamond 7, 8, and 9 at the back of Stiglmeyer Lawson, they're not lighted, things like that. And to also be clear to the board, right now, every year, our awesome town electrician, Jeff, we run a skylift for about $5,000 and we get it for 1 day. If we go past the day, we're paying for another day. So this man is getting up early with the crew chief. They start early, get up on that lift, and it's not just a bulb anymore every year. And the price of the bulbs are out of hand. So being able to switch to LED on these slightly used NFL lights would be absolutely incredible. It would keep Youth and Rec doing a great job of filling up our diamonds and parks to be used.
Council members, Councilmember Johnson.
Sure. So we have diamonds that aren't lit up right now. Is there a reason we wouldn't just put those lights there right now?
Well, we would have to run power to the back of the park, bring in engineering and that. And what I was just trying to convey, council member, is having the lights, that's more than half the battle right there. And I would recommend that we fix what we currently have lighted right now, but there would be leftover lights to be used across town if we wanted, to chew on conversation at the back of the park or town park or anywhere else in town that's maybe non-park that could use these lights.
Cool.
Any other council members?
I just had a question for you. I remember you said you had a quote about what installing new lights would have been. I was trying to find a vendor to sell these lights to see what they would go for on the open market, and I couldn't. It was a pain in the ass, and it didn't happen, essentially. So could you tell me the quote again that you got for, I guess, what the installing the new lights is, what the scope would have been and what the price would have been again?
It would have been, so speaking to the previous department head of facilities, he was given a quote less than 5 years ago for around $50,000. This is me spitballing without the paperwork on that, council member. Thank you. And then about a year and a half ago, our electrician reached out to a vendor and it was looking around $60,000 to convert one diamond to LED.
Okay, and that was basically just replacing the equipment that was there and upgrading it to LED?
Correct.
Okay, gotcha. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, council member.
Any council members on the question? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries. Thank you, Mr. Mess.
Thank you, town board. Appreciate it.
Moving on to Resolution 2026-404, sponsored by Councilmember Thompson, seconded by Supervisor Noack. Town Board hereby approves the application of Mohammed Chowdhury of Bangladesh Benbazar Summit of Buffalo to hold a reunion and community get-together on June 28th, 2026 at the Lions Pavilion Shelter and Cultural Center Amphitheater in Cheektowaga Town Park from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. And I apologize if I butchered any of that.
Question?
Yeah, I have a question about this. I just wanted to find out if this is anything similar to an issue that we had last year about a potential, I don't know if you want to call it a fair or carnival, that was advertised as something small like this. So before I gave it my blessing with my name on it, I would rather get some more information. I don't know if anybody else has any more information on that.
I appreciate that. The applicant did go into the clerk's office to fill out an application on this, so they gave us some info. They made a request well in advance compared to the last event we dealt with about the size of the audience they'd like. They're talking about a few hundred people. They would fit within the population or the size requirement for the large shelter. And I don't believe it's the same as the last group we were dealing with previously that had some issues and disagreement over who the leadership and the management of the organization was.
This is not the same organization that we are aware of in any way, shape, or form.
Okay. Thank you.
Appreciate the due diligence. Any other questions on the resolution? All right, that, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries.
That's the end of our separate resolution items. We did have some items that came in late. I do need a motion and a second to waive the rules to include resolutions 2026-410 and 412 as we already took up resolution 411. Is there a motion?
I'll offer the motion.
Second? Is there a second by anybody?
I'll second. I'll second your second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We are moving on to resolution 2026-410, sponsored by Supervisor Noack, seconded by Councilmember Bukowski. Town of Chickawaga Office of Emergency Management has identified a critical need to enhance training, preparedness, and operational coordination among law enforcement, fire, and emergency medical service agencies in response to active shooter and hostile events, commonly referred to as active shooter hostile event response, or ASHER incidents. In May of 2025, the town of Chickawaga submitted a grant application to Erie County Legislator Tim Myers seeking funding to address identified ASHER training and equipment needs. In December of 2025, the town of Chickawaga was awarded grant funding of $40,000. The town has subsequently been awarded an additional grant funding in the amount of $2,000. The town board of the town of Chickawaga hereby accepts the additional active shooter hostile event response, or ASHER grant award, in the amount of $2,000.
Question? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries.
Resolution 2026-412 is sponsored by Supervisor Noack, seconded by Councilmember Thompson. This town board hereby approves the application of the Federation of the German American Societies of Buffalo to hold its annual Buffalo German Fest on Friday, August 28th and Saturday, August 29th, 2026 at the Lions Pavilion in Chickawaga Town Park. The hours are Friday, August 28th from 5 to 10, Saturday, August 29th from 12 to 9.
Right, on the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries.
Our resolution items, departmental communications received in the town clerk's office include the ASHER minutes from May 19th, and general communications was one notice of claim.
Okay. With that next up is our public comment period. It's an opportunity for residents to comment on matters involving the town of Cheektowaga. Each speaker may speak only once, and each speaker shall be limited to a maximum of 3 minutes speaking time. We have 2 speakers for public comment to finish up the meeting. The first would be Rachel Martinez.
Hello, me again. So I just wanted to take the opportunity to ask again if there's been any movement at all towards the Civilian Review Board or Accountability Board. I think there were a lot of things brought up today that kind of point to the reason we really need that. part of it is everyone has 1.5 million things to do. We want to be able to provide support into looking at things like the policies that we talked about before, like policy 414, so related to like interactions with ICE, but also the policy around the ALPRs is horribly vague. So I think there's just a lot of things that we really need to take the time to look at and have a space where there can be more open communication rather than kind of the one-sided 3-minute little chunks that we get to interact. So the ALPR policy, just, reasonable suspicion or probable cause is not required, and just so much of the language that needs definition. If practicable, the officer should verify ALPR response through eJustice New York. What does if practicable means? Like, what does that mean? There's no way to define that. There's no way to follow that to the letter and be successful. So, I mean, I know we get painted as being against the cops, but like, I want them to be successful. We want to see them do their jobs, and I don't think our policies support that. ALPR data should be purged unless it has become or is reasonable to believe it will become evidence. What the hell does that mean? Anything could be reasonable to become evidence. The language just doesn't, support, again, us being successful. And then a general question of, I'm just wondering who are records access officers. It says releasing ALPR data. Anyone requesting the data would be directed to the records access officer or authorized designee. So I just wasn't sure who that was for us.
Couple questions there. On the police board, like the review board or citizens advisory type board, there's a little internal discussion to look to previous models. So that conversation is starting to move, but we have to look at previous examples. There's a reimagination board in 2020. There were boards going back many years prior. So we're having a little bit of discussion about some of the prior examples, but that has to come out to the board members more to say, do we take this approach or that approach, and work from there. On the information officer's question.
Right.
There's a town board resolution. I can't tell you exactly when we did it this year, but we did an update on it. It lists a few different names. It has a name from the police department. I believe it's Lieutenant Gielan. It also lists somebody from the IT department as a records-related officer for the town records department. So it states specific people there. Mr. Fowler, do we have you wrapped up into that somehow? Why do I think you're wrapped up into that?
I am the FOIL appeals officer.
That's what it is. And that resolution may note you as the FOIL appeals officer as well. That's what I was thinking of that. But you can go through town board resolutions to, my office could take a look through that tomorrow and get that over to you. So that way you can see how that's established.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, and I know there's different ways people might request it as well. So FOIL could be different than a federal agency reaching out saying, we'd like to access your data. So I'm just curious, it sounded like those were addressed on a case-by-case basis, but who is the person that says, yes, we're sending that?
Yeah.
And who has oversight over that? Because if we're just we need this for an investigation and someone's just rubber stamping those through, again, where is the oversight? Who is really looking at, is this for an Amber Alert? Yes, of course, do whatever you can, go find that kid. But if it's for something that's against our policies, we shouldn't be approving it. And I just don't know that we have that oversight in place. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Jess Greenwald, your other speaker signed up for public comment to close out the meeting.
So I am on board with everything that Rachel just said. I did want to talk about the GIVE grant a little bit, that the resolution for the flock fund is for the flock cameras is funded through, I think it's really interesting that we were talking about things like adding lighting to communities and with the Bill's lights. That's actually what the GIVE grant studies that the funding is based off of says helps reduce crime. It's not increased surveillance, it's increased foot patrols, increased lighting, cleaning up parking lots where people may be able to otherwise loiter and or do things they're not supposed to, and having them be brighter and cleaner. Those are all things that will reduce crime for our police department and make their job easier, especially with them being down people. And it comes without any of the many issues that we've brought up. I've been going to meetings since the beginning of the year. I've never seen you guys have to address so much with a vendor. I've never seen two vendors have to come to tackle addressing your guys' concern. And again, when we talked about this last meeting, it was talked about as if it were going to be a community back and forth and we could ask them questions and bring up specific things they said. And that's just not what we got. I think that there are common sense things that we can do that would help our police department by examining the root causes of crime and what contributes to that. And that is what this grant funding was based off of. And I strongly encourage you, if you go on the New York State Department of Criminal Justice Services website and you look at the grant funding, there are links to where it came from. I know I've sent it to you, and I know I've sent it to you. Read it, because those are things that have proven to work, and they've been proven by peer-reviewed studies. That's not something that Flock has. You're not going to find something positive about Flock that is not coming from Flock's company or that is not being funded by an ALPR company. It is all very skewed, and that's something we should take seriously with this kind of technology and advancements and how updates get pushed out over a cloud. It's kind of like a Trojan horse. I mean, what you guys bought is not what's on the street today, and we have no idea where it's going. And also, yeah, this is why we need a place for civilians' input to be taken seriously, because you guys don't have the time to do all of this. You deal with a wide array of issues, and we want to help take that off of you guys and have a dialogue and have back and forth from different perspectives. So I would encourage you guys to please make that happen and work with us. Thank you.
All right, with that, moves us over to elected officials' comments, starting with the supervisor. That would be me, right? So we had a spirited discussion at the previous board meeting regarding Flock cameras. We had reps here today. We heard comments from the public on these cameras, and the job that elected officials have is to be a good representative of the people. And there's times where we have to, where we may act as delegates. I do the best I can on every single issue to act as a representative. And what do I mean by that? A representative is the voice of the people to the best of their ability up here to say, I've taken what the people want and work that into the policy that's coming out of the board. But there are times and places where we act as delegates, and the approach is, the public entrusted me with their voted election time to make the decisions that I think are best. And I think you could point to examples I wish these two were here today, all 7 of us up here in previous boards where oftentimes we act as representatives of the people, but times where we have acted as delegates too. And I'm really torn on the issue of cameras, because from the perspective of a delegate, I hear the privacy concerns and a lot of these issues that come from these Flock cameras, but being in my position, I'm a representative of over 80,000 people. And I did get a number of emails today on criticisms of Flock cameras and problems with them. I have colleagues here who've done a good job explaining some of the concerns and issues with these cameras, but I have colleagues up here too, and there are folks in the audience that spoke and folks that have sent emails and called the office talking about the benefits of Flock cameras and the benefits of this technology that helps keep neighborhoods safe. And they come from all different corners of the town. This is a fascinating issue because it shows the beauty of our town, that you can't look at a person or see the neighborhood that they're from or whether they're young or old and assume what they believe about an issue. You hear unexpected opinions from the usual suspects, so to speak, and that's a beautiful thing. But you look at communities that are getting rid of these cameras and the reasons that they cite, it's a lot of the stuff that we've seen happen in Western New York. But you look at the benefits of these cameras, and even without asking for them, my time here, I've been able to see some of the benefits that come from these. That earlier in the comments, I mentioned an issue with a convenience store on the other side of town. There were 3 robberies there, and the Flock cameras, we were able to locate an individual and catch them. We were able to locate an individual because of a home invasion. I think we can have this technology and also mitigate some of the worst issues that may come from it or some of the major concerns that come from it. I don't think we have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. And the more I think about it, the more I have to act as a representative on this issue. But I'm taking in more information, and I'm learning more about these things. And I'm glad, quite frankly, that we tabled this resolution tonight, because I feel I need some more time to not rethink just those 2 cameras, but the program in full. I want to have conversations with each of you and the representatives that weren't here tonight. I'm really interested in what they think about these. We may have to do something fundamentally different. It's, I'm not afraid to say that I dig into an issue and I let the facts take me where they go. There's times where I come to a position where I didn't think I would at the outset. And as I learn new information, it can radically change my views and opinions on it. And so that's the flock camera issue. There's a lot of work that we've been doing in between meetings. I know my office has been working on labor negotiations, a variety of other issues, but I wanted to touch on some of the events I've been at in the last couple of weeks and a few of the events that are coming up here in town. On May 29th, Friday, May 29th, we had a police memorial service to honor police officers who have both lost their life in duty and died in the past. And it's a relatively short ceremony, but it's an opportunity for the officers to get together and share a meal after names are read off about those officers that have served the department and passed away. So that was Friday, May 29th. On the 2nd of June, this was not yesterday, but last Monday, down at Niagara Square, there's a pride flag raising ceremony. And it's something I've been attending for a number of years now. And I usually don't mention it here, but I want to mention it this time out, because when you read the comments on social media posts about having a ceremony like that, it kind of reminds you why you need it. So I'm glad that takes place. I'm happy to be there, and I'm looking forward to that next year. This past Saturday, as I mentioned during New Business, the local American Legion held their convention. It was really, the honor was mine to be there and to have an opportunity to speak about some of the great things happening in the town of Cheektowaga that are benefiting veterans, including Tunnel Towers project on Harlem Road and the Eagle Star to Paul project on Genesee Street. But even the project at 1111 Harlem Road, Eagle Star, that's working on Genesee Street, is now getting involved with pivotal development on that 1111 Harlem Road project. And one of the things that came up from one of the folks involved in that event was a veterans tax credit that recently got passed through the legislature. We had some discussion on this, Councilmember Bukowski. There's a desire for a meeting with me to have a conversation about that. So in the near future, I'd expect all of us to be hashing out that question of addressing the question of changing the tax exemption for veterans based on state law that was changed recently. This coming Sunday, and I won't steal Councilmember Bukowski's thunder, War of 1812 is at noon. I'll stop there because I'm sure she's going to mention that, and thank you for your work on that. And the last one I have on my list here today is a Juneteenth flag raising on June 18th. It's a Thursday. We did this for the first time last year in Cheektowaga Town Park. Thank you to the Parks Department. They've given me assurance already that place is going to be in good shape that day. They did a wonderful job on it last year. We got a good crew over at Town Park. And it's going to be 5 p.m. Thursday the 18th for a Juneteenth flag raising, America's second day of independence. And that's all I've got. So pass it over to Councilmember Nowicki.
At all? It's my job. You're kind of biting off of my thing. So yeah, flock was the big one tonight. Again, my stance where I take on this is while I may legally have the right as being part of this board that we can put this hardware and software into our town, morally, I don't think it's the right thing to do. I don't think, because 8,700 voters put me in this seat. I have the right to surveil everyone that drives through this town just because they were driving through. And to quote Spider-Man here, with great power comes great responsibility. The movie, not the man. I know, it was Uncle Ben. I think using that power with discretion makes for hard decisions like this. And there's no right answer here, but I think there's more wrong answers, and that's why I'm leaning towards protecting against putting more flock cameras in a town, or reconsidering if we need to go to a different vendor or no vendor at all, or whatever the town decides is the right choice for us all to make. I think the best comment I saw online from somebody talking about this today was how so many people in this country get concerned with China's implementation of a social credit score and the big surveillance state. Well, at least that's government backed, that's at least the own people in their government doing it. For us, we're outsourcing it to people that we don't even have much control over, which I argue is even worse than what they have. So that's kind of where I stand on that. Hopefully over time we can get more people to talk on this than just the people that are in this room, and get a better view on where we all stand on this. That's where I am on it. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Mr. Thompson, Councilmember Thompson, we've given you a lot to work with.
I'll keep it brief, but the one thing that you see often, time and time again, is you see it on both sides, and usually there's a few people that are either the most vocal on social media or attend meetings. They're the ones that, in fact, instruct a lot of change, and more power to them. That's fantastic. But I don't want to, I'm fine with making an unpopular decision based on what I believe, what I've learned, what I've seen, if it's unpopular. And not because there's a group of folks saying, this is the most important topic to us right now, where 2 months ago it was ICE. In 2 months from today, what is it going to be then? What's the topic going to be? It's going to be something. And there's going to be people sitting here pounding and saying the same thing. We need to figure it out, get it together. It may be something new, plus whatever it is we're talking about now. Because as we all know, government is not the most efficient. So things do not happen overnight, but a lot of times it is very reactive. I sit up here also, so I'm guilty of that too, as part of this board, of being reactive to things. And a lot of times we are very reactive, as I'm sure everybody in this room can witness and they've seen. That's just the one thing that I guess is a pet peeve, even though I am part of that also, but you see it all too often. That's the only time you say, oh, you've been coming to these meetings for months, and just now you have the pressure of, us bringing groups in to speak to everyone and try and, back our claim of this is great. Why did we do that? Why did it happen? Because there was pressure to say, come on, you need to do something. So I'm not one for making reactive decisions based on that. I'll sit here and tell you I don't agree with it, but far too often we do see that from this town, and I'm fine with taking the unpopular role and going against the grain. I was also elected to do that too, and not do the status quo. Again, as far as the technology goes, yeah, as a registered Republican, I don't want people knowing what I'm doing and watching everything that I do. But again, having a cell phone on you, you're a hypocrite if you say you're not for, another camera growing up. What about the cameras on the 33 that record every single person passing, tens of thousands of people every single day? Where's that data going? What's Target doing with their cameras when I walk through the doors? So it's just, again, I don't want to be hypocritical. I'm not a fan of it, but I'd be very hypocritical if I said I don't support this, especially if it does bring some good to it. So That's all I got.
Councilmember Bukowski.
All right. This Friday, June 12th, is Women's Veterans Day. Myself, I am very proud to be a veteran, an Army nurse for 25 years. So I salute all the females out there that are serving and or who have served. June 14th, next Sunday, is the War of 1812, and we have the commemoration and ceremony at noon on Arrow Drive. Please come out. It's supposed to be a nice day so far. The weather's reporting, so it's a very nice ceremony. We do have the Cheektowaga Police Honor Guard, and then we have also the Honor Guard coming from the Donovan Post. And we got some guest speakers also planned. So it's going to be a nice thing. And afterwards, there will be a reception at the Donovan Post on Genesee Street. Also on Sunday, the 14th, at 3 p.m. at Cheektowaga Town Park, our Cheektowaga Community Symphony will be performing the Flag Day ceremony. So after the War of 1812, stop down then at Cheektowaga Town Park for the symphony. June 18th is a Thursday at the Gerlach Post in Sloan. There is a Veterans Resource Fair, and there's going to be approximately 20 to 25 agencies there to help all veterans with resources. So if you are a veteran yourself or you have family members that is a veteran, please stop down. It's from 3 to 7 at Gerlach Post. And lastly, June 23rd, the Senior Center will start their Summer Music Fest. And from 6 to 8, there's going to be 7 polka band playing. And that's it.
Thank you.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry, one more thing. June 19th, Cheektowaga Police Clam Bake from 3 to 8, and that's at the Holy Trinity Ukrainian Orthodox Church on Como Park. And then just to remind everybody, our next board meeting is not going to be on a Tuesday, it'll be the 24th, Wednesday.
Councilmember Elderkin.
Okay. Again, thank you to our Parks Department. Really appreciate all the hard work there. And with the good weather, brings out more people and more to clean up. So appreciate that. All 3 pools, as mentioned before, are going to be open. So looking forward to renewing my ID card, getting out there with my kids. Well, they're not going to be in public with me. They'll go, but okay. Just want to address a couple questions regarding attendance, tracking attendance at pools. We're not there yet in terms of a digital system. We're still tracking by hand. It's a manual process, tracking the attendance card, counting, tallying up. So eventually it would be great if we could get to a digital program, but that's not an immediate project right now. It's really in the future. Someone had asked a question about how do we track attendance. It's just a literal tally system. Another question came about the swim club rentals and it being at a low cost. Looking into that, it is actually the swim clubs operate while the attendants and the lifeguards are in the pool before hours cleaning up. So they're charged for a lifeguard, not necessarily, and it's not to bring in a large revenue because the purpose of the pools is to teach how to swim. They're charged for the cost of the lifeguard while the other attendants are there anyway, checking the chemicals, checking the pool, doing the cleanup before the pool opens. So just wanted to address that. So,
with that, I'm going to offer a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second?
Second.
Yeah, multiple seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?